Hello and welcome back to the SMITE Pro League here in Season 10 of competitive play. Our first set of the day now complete, and we move into our second matchup. It's going to see at least some new faces for the SMITE Pro League that we haven't gotten a chance to see yet in our first phase of play. The Eldritch Hounds going to be facing off against the Highland Ravens, a team that has already had a chance to play here up in the studio and was able to find a win. We'll get to see how those two teams can stack up in this second match today as we take a look at our schedule for not just the rest of today, but also the remainder of our weekend. If you missed out, Styx Ferrymen and Gilded Gladiators just took part in their battle, and as the Styx Ferrymen came out on top there. Now we'll have the Eldritch Hounds and the Highland Ravens, and then we'll close out our day with the Oni Warriors and the Atlantis Leviathans. We'll get our first look at the kickoff tournament winners in the Oni Warriors up against the Atlantis Leviathans, who, as mentioned yesterday, also had a chance to play up against the Highland Ravens. So we'll get to see a couple of returning teams from yesterday's matchups face off kind of at the end portion of today. And then we still got some matchups tomorrow, so make sure you are still tuning in for the entire weekend for the SMITE Pro League. I'm J-Mac. I got Mifflin joining me here on the desk. And Miff, Eldritch Hounds, a team that is ready to be tested now. We got a little bit of a chance to see them at that kickoff tournament. We got to see a little bit of what they are capable for. Found a win over the Styx Ferrymen to kind of start, quote-unquote, the competitive season, their first kind of real competitive matchup in CSPL. But now they're going up against the Highland Ravens, who have had a chance to play already and have found success in their first matchup.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. Any opportunity we get to see newcomers to the league, how they adjust the SPL, especially in a newer meta like we're in right now, I think is going to be a very good look, a great heat check for the Hounds. But the Ravens coming off of a nice win already. You gotta always have your buddy Mo on your side. You know Mo, right?
Yeah, momentum.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Momentum. At least the key for the Highland Ravens. But it wasn't an easy win for the Highland Ravens. Remember in that first game, we're sitting 35, 40 minutes into the game. These guys backs against the wall at their own Phoenix. They find successful defenses there, find some fights at the Fire Giant, end up turning around a game that was such a high deficit for them. And then game two, well, they had Mo with them at that point, able to lead them to a 2-0. To face off against the Eldritch Hounds. Now, though, for the Highland Ravens, at least should be something to watch on. And I'm going to be keeping my eyes on the carries for the squad. Venenu, BaRRaCCuDDa, both having some very strong pop-off performances in their set. Notably, Venenu with a little bit of a different god pool to start things out. The Zeus, something that we don't often see, at least anymore, just because he hasn't really been up that point in the meta. Venenu had an insane game on him for game number 1 of that set.
I believe it was like an 8-1 or maybe a 9-1 performance on that Zeus. Not something I was expecting to see, I agree, but makes it look very good. It was a highly immobile composition. It's the Ravens now who have essentially carried the spirit of Scream himself, so maybe just Scream doing it, where he's always going to play something slightly unorthodox. I suppose it has infected the rest of this team. It was the Anubis out of the jungle, flanked by Zeus in mid. The Ravens, a very aggressive team. They had said they don't quite understand what the identity of this team is going to be. They don't know what portion of the games they aim for, but generally mid-game to early game. Really where they make their money. Probably just because of Scream out of the jungle, right? It seems like that guy just can't help himself. He's going to get involved in the early, given the opportunity, and he's going to do it a little bit different from everybody else, be it with Anubis or in Gilgamesh in game 2 of that set. The Highland Ravens, a difficult team to lock down. Each one of their lanes, very safe. Each one of these guys, very storied careers, and I think certainly have deserved the reputation they've garnered amongst other SPL teams. Seems like everybody in the SPL says the Ravens, ones you got to keep your eyes on, and I'm sure the community will catch up to that pretty soon too.
Yeah, especially, I'm very impressed with the performance that Hurriwind had as well. Remember, it was only just recently that Hurriwind had made that transition from being a primary mid laner to moving to the support role. Took a little bit of time through the SCC to practice some of that support. Came up at the very end of Season 9 to jump into competitive play at the pro level. Now is jumping into his first, we'll call, full SPL season for now in that support. And getting to play Yemoja 2 games in a row, when you look back in Season 9, Yemoja probably not let through just about ever, no matter what team you're facing off against. Hurriwind gets it twice, goes 0-2-9 the first game, 1-0-11 the second one. Really showed his stuff on this god in a pick that I don't imagine he'll probably be getting very often after that performance.
I'm not sure that anybody should be getting Yemoja right now, right?
No.
It feels like every time Yemoja, we get a little break, a couple months off, everybody forgets, Yemoja's not that good. Maybe scrims haven't been overly productive. Nobody's grouping up, allowing that healing to work. But when the SPL rolls through, when there are stakes on the line, these teams play around this Yemoja very well. And we just remember. I think remember is the operative word, that she is incredibly strong.
And up against, at least in that direct matchup for Hurriwind, Quig, also a very known Umoja player, is in fact in his top 3 by a pretty wide margin of supports that he's gotten to play throughout his competitive history so far. About 15% or so of his games have been the Umoja, compared to about 6-7% to the next highest god immediately after that one. So definitely some priority on that pick for the Eldritch Hounds support. And the Eldritch Hounds in general are a team that's to be tested. They had a very standout performance at the SPL kickoff LAN, was that first team to qualify in over what was the expected Niflheim Wargs at that time. This team makes it through. A lot of it kind of across the board for this team. It didn't really feel, at least at that kickoff tournament, or at that qualifier, I should say, that it was one player in particular really carrying this squad forward. Really felt like it was a full team effort for this team.
I mean, there were certainly standout performances in individual games. Really loved seeing Ducky on his Hercules, the base defenses. I remember multiple 2-3-man pools, really setting up the squad well, and one of the more veteran players on this team. So you got to imagine he steps up as that shot caller, as that voice of reason for this squad of rookies here. Flanking him, though, he's got BennyQ out of mid. Another veteran player now who's got about 2 years pedigree in the SPL. And then everybody else. Amateur talent coming up to the SPL for the first time. VaporishCoast, the Penta kid, got to play at Worlds through the SEC. Now here in the SPL proper. I expect great things from him. He's a mechanical prodigy, not in studio just yet. We'll still be playing with his team here today. And then Oathhh. He's earned the nickname Goath, and he hasn't even played a game in the SPL just yet. Has had multiple emphatic performances, quadra kills, I believe also a pentakill already this year. Crazy stuff, man. This is a roster of just a lot of young talent that probably will need some time to adjust the SPL, but considering how quickly and how emphatically they made it into the SPL, maybe that adjustment period's already passed.
Yeah, I kind of want to maybe go back and highlight towards Coast something. I believe you and I have talked a little bit about this kid. The fact that this is his first SPL debut, his first professional as far as SPL is concerned, but certainly no stranger to professional level of SMITE, playing in the SCL for multiple years as well, someone you've had to square off against a few times over your competitive career back then as well. But Costa just made his name known across the board of SMITE. When you think pentakills, this is the first player that comes to my mind, not just because of some of the pentakills he's gotten, but how many this guy. I believe he is the most pentakilling player in the league, if I'm not mistaken. I believe, of course, you'll be able to maybe back the stat on that one, but this is a kid with an immense amount of talent, a wide god pool, and I think that might be something to say of a lot of the players on this squad as well, especially when you look over at BennyQ, the man on your screen right there. This is a man who is not afraid to play just whatever comes to mind for himself in that mid lane.
Has been forced to reel it in at times in the past, right? Haven't seen the Atlas mid in a little while, haven't seen the Terra mid in a little while, but certainly has a propensity to go towards slightly different picks, and his team forced to adjust around him. I expect high-octane, high-action games if the Hounds are able to establish their own pace. Seems like that's where they made their money in sets of past, was just throwing their opposition off balance by catching them with very quick initiations, very quick engagements, generally around that Gold Fury or in that mid lane. So maybe the Jade Dragons, or excuse me, not the Jade Dragons, the Ravens, will try and slow down the pace here, perhaps lean on their own veteranship and the ability to farm. But I don't know, doesn't it feel like Scream would take that as a personal affront that anybody would be able to slow him down? Could be both teams come out swinging here.
Gotta imagine so for both these teams, especially when you have Scream on your team. That's not a team that wants to sit back and passively wait until the late game and then just win out in a couple of team fights. That's one team and one player in particular who does want to hit the ground running, and Oathhh certainly a player that will try and go toe-to-toe with the veteran Scream in that jungle role. A little bit of differences, at least amongst their god pool. Oathhh, we've been seeing a little bit more of the ability-centric style of gods. We saw the Thanatos kind of pop its way out during that kickoff tournament. Oathhh even kind of adjusting his god pool over the course of Season 9. You look back during his SCC stint there, he was running a lot of auto-attack style assassins to start out the year. Then he gets to the Masters event, everybody realized, okay, well, those auto-attackers really aren't all that scary to deal with. We'll just go ahead and ban them. Now what do you have in your back pocket? Really didn't get to see too much of that, but over the year realizing, okay, well, if they're going to keep banning this, I need to find more things to add to my kit. Now that they're banning those, I need to add more things to my roster. And that's kind of the mindset that you got to really admire in a rookie. Not expecting to get to the SPL, but the fact that SPL players are putting that much respect on very specific niche picks to ban away from him.
Yeah, Oathhh now has played the Hebo, the Fenrir, the Mercury, the Thanatos, the Camazotz, whereas back in the the Challenger circuit was playing things like the Nemesis and the Erlong Shen, has certainly had to adapt his god pool and has played well around the meta shifts that we've seen here in year 10. Seems like mages in particular really have gone up in value. Doom Orb, Spear of Desolation has forced mages into the jungle now as they creep into these other roles, but the same can be said of Scream on the other side. Nobody else is playing Anubis out of the jungle, and he's certainly capable of playing the standards that we've seen from him in the past. Gilgamesh, Anubis, Susano, and Erlong. 4 of the last 4 games for Scream on the other side. I think this is one where the coaches likely have to get involved in the conversation as well. When you look at these teams, there's a lot of parity in just direct lane opponents and how they choose to play the game. Ducky and Haddix, for the most part, considered hold it down in lane style players, rotate into the team fights, start to run amok then. Scream and Oathhh, both very early game junglers. BennyQ and Ven, I think an interesting matchup. BennyQ a little bit more so than Ven. Very willing to look for that 1v1, perhaps runs in the Quig family. Of course, BennyQ, brother Pagon, one of the solo wings mid laners in the league. Big brother BennyQ hasn't had the same crazy outputs that we've seen from Pagon, but I'm sure a chip on his shoulder doesn't want to be shown up by little bro. So maybe here, up against Ven, maybe repeat some of that magic that Pagon was able to accomplish against Ven. What was it, 7 kills in 1 game last year? Ven, I'm sure, won't let it happen if he gets to the say.
You know, I'm actually glad that you bring up the coaches, Mifflin, because it's Chuckles, at least for the Eldritch Hounds, and Neilmaw for the Highland Ravens.
Oh, it's a beef match.
Now, quote-unquote enemies, you could say, at least on the battleground, having to coach off against each other. Was not the same success between Neilmaw versus Chuckles whenever it came to the qualifiers, but now Neilmaw, with a new squad alongside the Highland Ravens, has found success so far, at least in his SPL debut as a coach with his team. Now Chuckles want to try and find his first win up against Neilmaw in said position, now piloting right behind the Eldritch Hounds. So I wonder how much that does play maybe into the picks and bans, knowing the play styles that Chuckles has had over time, the teams that he's gotten to work with, that kind of coach mentality, what Neilmaw has learned over his time with the teams that he's gotten to coach up until this point with the qualifiers, now getting at least a little bit of time on the battleground with the Ravens. So I wonder how that maybe that coach v coach dynamic goes with these two teams.
I'm curious because it's a completely different team for Chuckles, right? So anything that Chuckles was applying for the Warriors previously, I feel like probably adjusts a bit. A good coach looks at what their players are bringing, the gods they like to play, the portion of the game that they like to play, and they build strategies around that. It's not so much that the team adjusts the coach, it's more so that the coach adjusts the team. Neilmaw, of course, a brilliant mind for the game as well, certainly capable of adjusting to the Highland Ravens and has had opportunities to play with and against these players for a good long while. I imagine, though, there will be some choice words from either one of these coaches at the end of this set.
Yeah, we'll get a chance to talk to the coaches at some point throughout this phase to kind of pick at their brains. But we did get a chance to at least talk to BennyQ from the Eldritch Hounds, so we'll go ahead and throw that interview video over.
I think our performance at the kickoff LAN was pretty on par with what I thought would happen, or like how we would perform. Maybe not a 2-0 against Ferryman like that, but still pretty happy with that.
Quads for the newbie into the league, and the Eldritch Hounds turn it around in the Phoenix. And Core, that might just be game 2 in the set.
It favors my team for there to be such drastic changes like these, because I think we all converse and talk about the game a lot and give our opinions, and we bounce off each other. And yeah, I think we adapt pretty quickly, especially for like events like the kickoff LAN and play-ins. I'd like to think my team matches up pretty well against the Ravens. I feel like my teammates are all really motivated, especially Coast, to kind of beat his old team name. Leading up to the draft after the kickoff tournament, I think all of my teammates collectively wanted to play them.
That's an interesting point that BennyQ actually brought up right at the end, is that VaporishCoast with the Hounds is now playing against his old team name, at the least, as far as brand is concerned, but obviously not the same players that he used to play for on that same team brand. But also putting a lot of faith that at least BennyQ is into VaporishCoast being able to win out in that lane matchup against BaRRaCCuDDa. When we talk about VaporishCoast and his run, not only to Worlds, but also at Worlds, one of the only hunters that was able to go toe-to-toe with Yarkor at that time, who was seen as probably one of the most dominant hunters, at least in that role. So let's see how Coast can square up against the veteran BaRRaCCuDDa. Picks and bans for game number 1 between the Eldritch Hounds and the Highland Ravens. Sorry, excuse me. kicks off right now.
Similar colors.
They are very close in colors. And I was telling you this, and I even told the players this. So far of the jerseys that we have seen, I've got to give props to the Highland Ravens. The color palette on those jerseys are clean. The wing on the side of the jersey as well. Very nice little compliment for this one. I think so far they went out in the jersey department. They've also been able to win out in their set so far this weekend. Well, let's see if the Highland Ravens can now bring their second one to their name. As the bands begin to roll through, a couple of healers immediately taken off by the Eldritch Hounds. As it's Guan Yu, Yamoja, and now Ishtar for the top 3 bands of the Hounds. Highland Ravens take away Cernanos and Martikaros. We've been seeing a lot of Marty play and a lot of Marty bands as well so far this weekend, Miff.
I believe 100% pick ban rate so far for Martikaros, so certainly a steadfast portion of the meta right now, something we'll become accustomed to seeing as the phase rolls on. The Eldritch Hounds have done their homework. That Yamoja served the Ravens well in their previous set. They'll have to dig a bit deeper here into Hurriwind's God Pool. Hurriwind, of course, has not had the longest time, especially compared to everybody else in the league, in developing that God Pool. Just first year in that support role. First dedicated year, I should say. Highland Ravens still hovering on that last ban. This is essentially a flexibility ban. I don't think there's anything out there that is necessary. No top meta pick that you're super concerned about. With all 3 of the premier hunters off the table and all the healers as well. Aphrodite seemed to have been that pick that was consistently banned, but nowadays has fallen a bit in those power rankings. What has not fallen for the Eldritch Hounds is something they were playing even before some of these changes, even before we had seen Hercules rise for everybody else, is this Hercules. Got ahead of myself there. Likely headed for Ducky out of the Soul Lane. Loves the pressure that this god affords him, the ability to start off those fights, non-committal initiation at an all-time high, and a pick that he has played a good deal in the last year or so. I mean, every single time it's available, Ducky has been one to go to the Herc.
I mean, when I think of Ducky, I think of 3 picks in particular. I think Hercules, I think Sun Wukong, and Tyr. We haven't been seeing a whole lot of Wukong, well, a little bit less on the Tyr, but Hercules for sure on the rise, as well as Vamana, a pick that we've seen actually flexing quite a bit so far this year already, Mifflin, between the Soul Lane and the jungle. Don't imagine well, actually, we've been seeing a little Thor solo. It's mostly been Ducky running Thor solo.
I sure hope it's Scream Thor. I sure hope.
You gotta imagine, when you have a powerhouse like Scream who wants to get active, wants to get involved early, Thor has got to be the pick for him in the jungle.
High damage output, fast scaling, global presence, and a pick that Scream has built a story around himself playing. Very good at controlling the pace early on, and now already a decent target in the Hell that he can try and jump onto. Hell, of course, has the opportunity, if she is already in the light stance, to cleanse out that ultimate. If you start your dunk while she's still in dark stance, there's no way that she's got time to find that cleanse. So Thor already finding a pretty decent gank, I think. It could potentially be Hell in support. We've seen that a fair deal from PBM in the past, now Aurora as well. I believe the first one to find success on that Hell support. Could be that the Eldritch Hounds and Quig try and take that there. But flex potential, to be sure. Could go mid. Could even go solo, have a Hercules in the jungle if you want to go crazy on the Hounds. So we'll have to see a little bit more of that draft before we're locked in. What is not going to leave anything to the imagination is this Ravens lock-in, the Jing way. BaRRaCCuDDa's played it more than literally anybody else in the SPL. Loves the safety that this god has, the ability to rotate to just about any lane, that passive, head back to base, fly wherever you want. Makes her very adaptable and very mobile on map. As well as it's just a crit meta. You got to think Jingwei is feeling pretty good when explosive bolts are as strong as they are.
I'm pretty sure not just the one who's played this god the most, I think he has the most games played on a single god with this one Jingwei pick. I believe over 120 games that he's been able to run this pick so far. But now we jump into the second wave of bans. BaRRaCCuDDa, a little bit of a shot at Oathhh there. That was a pick that he was running at least at the beginning of last year. Had a little bit of time during the middle of Season 9 that he was able to run this pick as well. We've been seeing a lot of rise of BaRRaCCuDDa with some of the changes that came towards him in the 10.3, getting a big cooldown reduction on that Eat minion, really sped up his farm game alongside Thanatos. So the Ravens definitely putting a little bit of respect over towards Oathhh in that jungle, taking away some of his premier picks. Meanwhile, the Hounds going to move around the board a little bit. Terra and the Morrigan taken away. Haven't been seeing much Morrigan, but when you're staring at Thor, Vamana, even potential of double Jingwei at some point in the game, if you really want to get some extra shred, Morrigan definitely not out of the wheelhouse for Venenu.
So I'm trying to figure out where Oathhh would go with his jungle pick. The Mercury solidly within his god pool, as is the Susano. Hebo recently has been on the rise for Oathhh in particular as well. But the Khepri selection, I think, makes it a bit more complex where you want to go with your jungle pick. Generally, I really like AoE abilities as answer to Khepri. Anything that makes him have to think a little bit harder about who he needs the Scarab's Blessing would be useful here. So before Khepri, I was really leaning towards that Hebo for Oathhh on the other side, but Khepri's just going to wait for the water spout, and whoever's in the air is probably the one that's going to receive the Crushing Wave, and whoever's getting the Crushing Wave will likely also get the Scarab's Blessing. I'm glad I kept waxing poetic, because I was going to say I also don't love Fenrir here into the Highland Ravens draft. Ragnarok single target CC. Geb Shield used to be that classic answer. Khepri Ultimate operates very similarly, but if you're able to use it on Khepri himself, perhaps you can catch him off guard, at least in the early game.
You think that's maybe the answer there for Oathhh is, well, we don't want to deal with this Khepri's ultimate. What if we just pick him up and maybe pull him away from the rest of his team? Maybe pick up and try and find
just push it
at least the
somewhere
grab
else.
onto him. So now we have the full composition, at least for the Eldritch Hounds. Hercules, Hel, Ram, Fenrir, and Merlin to round out the draft. So Hel's support, likely the call here for Quig. And then Ducky on the Hercules. Talk to me maybe about the pacing, at least, of the game for the Eldritch Hounds. Is this the composition that you want to get running a little bit earlier, maybe wait towards that mid-game, one that you are fine with farming up towards this late?
Man, late game for the Hounds is strong, to be sure. Just Hel and Hercules together, I think, enough to make just about any composition strong in the late game. But Ram, of course, a phenomenal scaler, and Merlin, one of the best base defense and siege gods in the game. So that does leave the Fenrir as the sole question mark come late game. If you're going for a slightly more sustained-centric build, maybe a Blood Forge or something along those lines that allows you to stay involved in those team fights a little bit longer, you're able to at least leverage your auto attacks, which are some of the hardest hitting auto attacks in the game. Besides that, I don't see Ragnarok doing so well into the Ravens, at least post level 12 when everybody's allowed to pick up their beads. But he is a phenomenal early game bridge. So imagine the Eldritch Hounds have their laners play a bit slower and have Oathhh rotate through, have him be the progenitor of all the aggression. If he's not there, I don't necessarily want to see the Hounds fighting too often.
And now that we have the final selection for the Ravens, Hera for Venenu in the mid lane, only single digits on the number of games that he has played on his god, so not a lot of data for Venenu just yet with his pick. How does this maybe kind of change up that team fight dynamic now for the Eldritch Hounds having to fight in, now that there's essentially a sixth man on the field with this Argus ultimate that Hera can drop down?
Argus ult, pretty decent. Hel giving over additional movement speed to your entire team for the most part will make it easier to disengage from Argus, who could struggle on chase down. But I think one of the bigger factors of this Hera lock-in is the polymorph. You've now got a consistent answer to brutalize on a team composition that already had pretty consistent answers to brutalize. You've got the Thor wall, Khepri's abduct, now that polymorph from range as well. Could make it difficult for Oathhh to use that ability early on, make it difficult for him to lean into one of the highest damage output portions of his kit. Might even adjust what he's willing to max out. Could be an unchained max here for the Eldritch Hounds jungler if he's so worried about maybe being able to fully channel that brutalize. Otherwise, it's a little bit of additional safety. You've got your bubble buddy, the Argus, so it's never a numbers disadvantage for you unless it's already a massive numbers disadvantage, so you've probably already lost the team fight. And the HP shield to prevent some of the kill secure potential of the Eldritch Hounds. Because chasing out kills, I can see becoming an issue for the Hounds, actually finishing them off. Merlin, of course, has got decent burst, but he doesn't have that one massive ability. It's like, all right, that's how I finish my kill. He doesn't have the Searing Pain or a Spear of the Nine Winds or something along those lines. So you're leaning on Ram now. Someone starts to straggle away. Astral Barrage, sure. If it's Hera, she's going to get 40% of her HP in shield form. And if she's holding onto it and playing well-rounded, if Ven's keeping his eyes out for that Ram in the air, might make it a bit more difficult.
Highland Ravens, a team that has already found success this weekend, finding their first win of the new season of the SMITE Pro League. Now looking to find their second. Eldritch Hounds untested up against the pros. We'll have to see how they square off against the Highland Ravens. We jump into game number 1. We've got Dave Ventrelli.
Can the Highland Ravens continue their tear? Maybe that's an overstatement. They've won one set 2-0. Let's cool the Jets here, Dave. The Eldritch Hounds, though, they showed up during the kickoff tournament, surprised some folks. They now begin their season here in Season 10 of the SMITE Pro League. Trelly, the Highland Ravens, I think, built up some expectations for themselves after their first match just yesterday. The 2-0 win over the Leviathans. I think Scream really slotted into this team nicely. To me, a big winner, though, was Hurriwind. I wasn't sure what my expectations quite were with him and how he's going to play support this year, and had so much room to grow. Apparently feels a bit more comfortable with his Ravens squad.
Yeah, definitely on point on the Yemoja pick yesterday as well. I think that the Highland Ravens have shown up in a big way. But the Eldritch Hounds, this is their debut. I'm excited to see with this sort of draft, the healer, I guess the immobile mages and support. I've been sold on a couple. I think Baron, I'm a believer of. The Hell, you got to play it well. We have to see how Quig pilots this pick. Has to make sure those cleanses are on point. Anytime Scream's in the air, anytime Ven's in the area, you got to be thinking cleanse is going to be very important for those team fights. So I want to keep an eye on duo lane for sure in this team.
Yep.
VaporishCoast is over there as well, so you already should be looking towards the duo lane for Sparks to fly for the Eldritch Hounds. But it should be an interesting matchup jungle-wise for sure. I mean, Oathhh and Scream,
Agreed.
they both want to get active in the early, and they both are on gods that can facilitate that play style.
Feels like two sides of the same coin, Oathhh and Scream, in their play style. Scream has obviously been around a bit longer. It's won worlds, right? But Oathhh feels like that next one up. Mid lane scraps have been often. And Scream and Oathhh will both get taken low, but both make it out A-okay. You see these 2v2s in mid break out almost immediately, and you got to be so careful on this Fenrir troll. You jump in, you don't get your stun, suddenly relying on Brutalize to get you out of the engagement. All is quiet now. You imagine, though, at level 5, though, we will start to see that jungle scrap pick up. Ragnarok so important. So is Anvil of Dawn. Does Haddix have damage here? No, he doesn't. My goodness, red health bars across the map. These teams not pulling punches in the first minute.
They are not. I mean, both Scream and Oathhh walked up, popped their shards, and said, hey, we're going in here no matter what. We were looking for a fight. Scream loses the beats, though. That's a big win. If Oathhh is able to get active and find another stun onto this Thor, could be an area to try and find some aggression. But look at this. Oathhh goes left for the shield buff, whereas Scream postured over towards right for the cooldown buff. Didn't even end up going for it. So that helps out the duo lane. We were already talking about how, you know, Coast and Quig are going to try and get pressure over in this duo as per usual, and they want to get aggressive with the shield buff. And now that they got the timer, with some help from Oathhh, it's going to keep BaRRa and Hurry pretty much under tower for a bit. You've got Khepri and Jing Wei. It's not like you're looking to scrap anyways, but you're losing that XP as well, which really does start to add up.
Right, Quig has poke, has sustain, Coast can clear the wave. This is how I imagine this lane looks for a little bit of time, but that's where at level 5, the Eldritch Hounds are going to have to be mindful. Once that Anvil of Dawn rolls its way through. Maybe I missed it, but Coast does not have beads for another 75 or so seconds. So if Scream hits level 5, somehow makes his way over in the next minute, that's an opportunity, but it is a pretty small target to hit considering where the Thor is, both XP and actual positioning-wise. This is going to be a big year for the Eldritch Hounds duo lane. As far as proving themselves here in the SPL, we know that they deserve to be here. They qualified in first from the qualifier tournament, the play-in tournament. But some incredible duo lanes here in the SMITE Pro League. VaporishCoast not the type to shy away from aggressive plays. Quig, a very talented player as well. Got to be one of the win conditions for this team. We know what BennyQ can do, what Ducky can do. Oathhh as well. But what can Quig do? He's got a Hera rotating into his lane and an Argus chasing him down. BaRRaCCuDDa takes first blood, and it is not a jungle gank. It's a mid lane rotation for the Highland Ravens.
I mean, take notes. Any of the other teams watching the Highland Ravens, I've seen Ven make this play probably 3 times now. It's BaRRa getting out pressured, BaRRa and Hurriwind underneath tower, Ven letting Scream take his red, take his wave, make the rotation to the obvious purple invade, and just, by the way, I've got an ultimate. Like, that's a level 3 hell.
Right.
Quig dies every single time. And I'm surprised it keeps working. Maybe you just have that pressure. Haddix is going to use the ultimate. How many times can you really stomp Ducky under tower? Not enough. So he's just going to use Colossal Fury for some extra pressure over in lane. But first blood going the way of the Jing Wei. Definitely not what I expected. I mean, one of BaRRa's bastions is already gone. That's how much pressure the Eldritch Hounds had, and they have lost it. Those beads for Coast are back up, but Scream's here, and he's going to go
here. Quig does not have beads, uses the cleanse and the heal, and steps away. Scream just simply not far enough forward. Despite looking for the attempt. And so we've seen one of the two big jungle ultimates get used so far. Oathhh is here as well, has Ragnarok. No great targets necessarily unless you're looking for this Khepri. That Scarab's Blessing is going to be important. Man, Scream is just relentless here. Is the wall good? It sure is. Quig is going to have to walk his way out in an airstrike. Has a little extra damage, but it's Scream who knocks down Quig for the second time this game. Beads a minute away. Wall perfectly placed. Wow, Coast. My goodness, I thought the fight was over. Another auto or two from BaRRa would have been a second kill. Dual lane has not been a strong point for the Hounds in the first 5 minutes.
Come on, I saw it in BaRRa's eyes. He wanted to go for one more attempt at that kill, but with the snipe still available, definitely the smart call to not dive that tower. BaRRa's already got pressure. Really no need. Beautiful play, though. I mean, no ward vision. That's what puzzled me there. Obviously, the Scream ult was telegraphed. Quig uses the cleanse a little, immediately runs away. Coast and Quig are able to go back. But then Scream just says, okay, yeah, I'm going to dunk onto this roaming Harpy, then walk up, get a beautiful wall. Need some ward vision down on that side of the map. Especially when you get ganked once, I'm surprised that Quig, Coast, or even in this case Oathhh, didn't try to get some vision down. As the blue buff invades go through, Haddix a little too late to his own buff. And that's going to be telegraphed. He did get the cooldown buff.
Did get the cooldown buff.
Yeah, so that goes big. But Oathhh, right side of the map, Scream, mostly on the left. That seems to be how the early game's going to play out.
Ward coverage now down for the Eldritch Hounds dual lane. Both of the purple buff choke points over into the lane. Warded for the time being. Oathh's going to get polymorphed here. Has to use the beads as well. But a Brutalize will allow him to jump away. I'm sure Ven takes that every day of the week. Drop Argus, get beads. If nothing else, it's just slowing down what Oathhh can do here, Trelly. And we talked about some potential targets for this Fenrir early. There's 4 sets of beads and a Scarab's Blessing as well as a Colossal Fury for the Eldritch Hounds jungler to deal with. And so opportunities may be limited.
And for all you Hera players at home, take note. Once Argus is down, just send him into tower to die. You want to get him back on cooldown immediately. The longer he sticks around, the longer he's not going to be on cooldown. So you send him in, he loses that health bar, and now Ven can wait for his next ultimate to drop Argus again. Those beads from Oathhh, they're going to be down for quite some time, another 2 minutes or so. So plenty of time for Ven to try and make a play.
How about the start here for BennyQ? He's gone right into BaRRaCCuDDa. We've seen plenty of variety out of the mid lane builds. Seen Sphere of Deso, seen some Doom Orb. BaRRaCCuDDa normally second or third item, but is there value in grabbing it this early?
Yeah, I was building Rod first item when I was trying to figure out what the meta build would be, but I think Spear of Deso or Doom Orb just brings so much to the table. It's just, I'm assuming Benny was uncontested in mid because, you know, junglers have been in side lanes, and he's like, I've got enough gold, I might as well just buy BaRRaCCuDDa. So that could have been the call, and there is value in it. You just get a huge damage spike, right? If you're not needed on the battlefield before that rod is completed and you just show up with a full rod, then it's not going to matter too much about how much money you actually spent on it. It's just Ven used that power spike early, right? He goes for the Deso. He makes a clutch rotation over to left. He goes over to right, drops Argus onto Oathhh. He's pulling beads. He's been much more active.
Man, Scream has been everywhere, hasn't he? Another one for the Highland Ravens now. Effectively every lane on the map except for mid has been looked at. Remember, Ven has the assist from a dual lane rotation. That's just simple from Scream. Anvil of Dawn, Ducky, caught behind a wall, and the walls have been perfectly placed from Scream as well. When you talk about wanting a Thor at level 5 to get active, Trelly, it's really exactly this that you're hoping to see, and Scream has played it well.
Certainly has. You could tell right there. Ven almost made the rotation over. Didn't want to let BennyQ get another level ahead or another wave under. And Hurriwind decides not to scrap over on left and decides to back up. I think that you know that Scream's ult's down, so you have to take this aggressive plays when you can. Oathhh just says, hey, we don't got to worry about our Anvil of Dawn for a bit. I'll try to help out the dual lane, grab a shield buff, that sort of thing. But Scream has been playing both sides of the map so well, and that gets to be annoying. And you know, when you have these immobile mages in the sense of Merlin and Hell that are constantly looking towards the skies for this fed Thor, I mean, there's a delete key, and it's whenever that ultimate is available. Red buff taken away. BennyQ's not going to be able to hold that one anytime soon. And you already got pressure towards these objectives. I think Gold Fury could be a threat. You have Argus to tank for you. You have plenty of damage from your carries. And, of course, Haddix did just use the teleport, but if he didn't, has that ability to come over to left lane, help out with DPS, help out with zoning. The Highland Ravens in the driver's seat for the early game for sure.
Indeed. So does it end up being a Gold Fury call? Coast behind right now, a tier 2 item, crit item, or it's Demon Blade or Bladed Boomerang, but likely has enough gold to go back and finish that up here shortly. Instead, Scream puts his eyes towards right. As you mentioned, blue buff's already gone, so not much really to get over there and fight over. And at 1,500 gold, right, Coast has not fallen too far behind itemization-wise. Just a small little extra bump for BaRRaCCuDDa on some of the early kills. Ducky also does not have teleport, so there's a world where you just see a 4v4 over on left. BennyQ, my goodness. Walked at by Hurriwind and Ven. The shielding absorbs a few tower shots and no problems there. Both playing aggressively here with his positioning. Decent enough ward coverage from the Highland Ravens, though, that spot out the Fenrir a bit. Is Oathhh aware of this, I think, because the Hounds do also have some ward coverage over on the purple buff side of that jungle. So likely would have seen the Thor go up. How much trouble is Coast in, though? Goodness, a crit or two rolls in. So Oathhh gonna turn right back around. Scream's got beads, uses them. The Ragnarok gets some value. A 3 versus 2. Pulls ultimates out of junglers. Coast also used his ult. A few sets of beads used across the map as well.
I think that Scream, that's a bit of an ego ult, right? He knew that Oathhh was on the shield buff and he wanted to just 1v1 the jungler, but your mid laner just got beads off of Merlin. BennyQ was still in lane, pretty weak there. I think saving that ultimate to try and use onto Benny would have been a better call, but Oathhh still wants to get active here. Remember, Ragnarok's down, but he's going to jump in. Yeah. I imagine the chase down will come through, but here comes Quig as well.
Polymorph won't hit, but Oathhh had to use beads. Root in from Hurriwind, Scream over the wall thanks to the hammer, and Oathhh with the last bit of mana jumps away. That's risky, but again, it's an aggressive player in Oathhh out of the jungle for the Eldritch Hounds. It's what you figure he wants to play the game like. Scream has been there setting the pace, but Oathhh has been trying to match it. So you don't mind if he's getting aggressive, but don't love having to use the beads just a few moments later. So it does seem like we're starting to roll into objective time. Pyromancer's up and spawned. Gold Fury is as well. Now BaRRaCCuDDa's tower quite low here. VaporishCoast, despite receiving a gank or two against him, has been able to maintain pressure against this Jing Wei. Can just clear the waves so quickly. And it is an objective call from the Highland Ravens, but it's Pyromancer now playing around Scream, who's half HP. Does not have Anvil of Dawn at the moment. Does not need it. And it looks like pretty quiet here for the Highland Ravens. Just the 3 kills, 2.5. Call it now 2,000 gold in the lead. And good objective play, but immediately pulled out on the left side. Trelly's Gold Fury for the Hounds.
It is. Bear's the only one here so far, but here comes Scream with Anvil of Dawn. Bear's going to have to stay pretty far back. He doesn't want to get ulted, and it's burning quick. It's a low health bar.
Gold Fury low, but taken by the Eldritch Hounds. Is there a fight after the fact? Scream is here. I hear that Anvil of Dawn being charged up. I'm not sure he's going to have the range to get back into this fight. He's been charging them very early. Been channeling that ult pretty far back from the Eldritch Hounds. And I think that's a pretty good veteran team call there for the Hounds. Realizing that the Pyro gets pulled on one side, and the opening for Gold Fury was right there, and they took it immediately.
Yeah, my guess is the Highland Ravens knew that could have been a play call, but BaRRa stepping up was going to be enough to stop the Hounds, but they committed to the 50-50, which wasn't really a 50-50 because Oathhh zoned so well. It was the fear of the Unchained stun, the brutalize that Jing Wei can't really deal with. BaRRa didn't want to trade damage and decided to back up. That's going to be a free gold call, and of course, Scream was a little bit too far away to make that Anvil of Dawn any use. And now you use trade objectives. So does that mean the fighting stops down? Usually, in a regular game, I would say yes, but with Oathhh and Scream on the map, with beads constantly down at least for some key targets on either side, I wouldn't be surprised if the aggression continues, and that seems to be the call. I mean, 3-man grouping in mid, you're looking towards tier 1 if possible. BennyQ just spamming abilities, Hurriwind, stepping up and try and pull some relics.
Yep.
It seems like both of these teams really are looking for scraps whenever possible.
Have not seen that critical Ragnarok just yet. We've seen,
I think, one.
A handful of Anvil of Dawn attempts. Some of them early, a couple of them a bit late, one really connecting. But Oathhh has just been stuck on farm status and just trying to match the pace of Scream being there while Scream is there. You're right, I do think it's just the one that got the beads away from Scream. 3-man rotation, slight, however it may be, from the Highland Ravens is over by the red buff right now. BaRRaCCuDDa, yeah, I'm thinking, would love to save his tower here, but Jing Wei passive could help you back to lane. Pace of this game slowed down quite a bit. Highland Ravens still maintaining some stability. Really in the next 5 or so minutes, Trelly, is where we're going to see this first big fight break out. BennyQ right back on track with a standard mid lane build, just swapping the order of things. I think this Merlin, despite his lane opponent
He's stuck.
having a good start, doesn't matter. Scream over on right. We get a perfect wall onto Oathhh seemingly out of nowhere, and Haddix takes an early Scarab's Blessing and actually steps back forward into the fight. He's got to be careful here. Ducky does have ultimate. I think excavates enough there, but can make life difficult. Ven trying to sidestep the Hercules, but there's simply too much right in front of him, and big damage out of BennyQ up and over the wall. Might just mean disengage. Individual pick for the Highland Ravens and a tower over in mid.
Yeah, I love that play from BaRRa. Started to make the rotation over. Coast immediately matches it. Realizes his own tower goes down because Coast had all the pressure in the world. So decide to take the tier 1 in mid, and the fight's a little bit over at that point. Oathhh had beads, by the way. What a beautiful play from Scream. I'm thinking Oathhh knew he could always just Ragnarok and run away, so wasn't too worried about taking that damage. And then the perfectly placed wall just cuts off his path, and the big dog was stuck in his cage.
That's
and
right.
Just could not run away. So beautiful play by there. 2 kills over to Scream. And now we're at the point where Primal Fury and Pyro are going to be coming back up. The Highland Ravens, I don't want to see them go for this Pyromancer unless it's just Haddix and Scream, and then Ven and BaRRa and Hurry are all hovered around this goal. You shouldn't be trading Primal Fury when you're up 4-0 and you've got this kind of gold lead. The Runic Bomb is valuable, but you should be able to play both sides relatively easily. You have that Thor ult as well to make sure to cover all angles. I'm thinking group over on left and then just send a ward, but it looks like a full 5v5 over on Pyromancer. The Ravens are already set up here.
Well, if the Ravens do this immediately, there's still 10 seconds on the respawn from the Fury. If you do this immediately, you'll have plenty of time to get over to left. Pyromancer taken by the Ravens. Is there a fight after the fact? Haddix says yes, but the rest of the Ravens say no, and as you expect now, you start to shuffle your way towards the left side. I believe a Runic Bomb is still down. It looks like Scream is going to go pick that up. Does indeed. So I think maybe smart, Charlie, from the Eldritch Hounds. You're not committing to a full 5v5 for the Pyromancer. Fight for the Primal Fury. Scream is up once again. This time should be in range of a dunk. Might just be Ducky this time. No, it's Oathhh, who gets dunked on by Scream, and Ragnarok won't make its way in because Ven's got the peel. Ducky somehow survives on the other side of the fight, but he can't participate. Does have teleport, and that'll allow the Soul Laner to get back in.
Beautiful ult by Scream. He knew his target didn't have beads, but Quig had the cleanse there, and now Argus doing some damage over to this Primal. Haddix blinks in.
Haddix blinks in. It's Primal Fury to the Ravens as well. Are they interested in the fight? Doesn't matter because Ducky is. The Hercules teleports right back through after upgrading the TP. BaRRaCCuDDa airstrikes away. Now the name of the game, retreat from the Highland Ravens. You've traded out your jungle for a couple kills, couple of objectives for now. Feels okay. You're hoping that you can keep these structures on the map.
Yeah, certainly worth at the moment, depending on how much the Eldritch Hounds are able to grab. So far, grouped in mid, tier 1 tower. I was curious where they'd go next. Were they going to split and head over towards fire? No, they're just going to go back to farming. VaporishCoast is going to head back over to duo lane. So still worth it there for the Highland Ravens. It's unfortunate that Scream goes down at that point. If Hurriwind was around, and I think Ducky just too fast on this Hercules to really make an impactful Scarab's Blessing there. So Scream dies for his troubles. And again, that should have been 100-0 on Oathhh. It was a well-timed cleanse from Quig, but I think Oath's big problem was after that ultimate, after he gets so damaged in, decides to try and chase down, jumps in aggressively, pulls the beads off a Scream, but just gets chain stunned by Argus. Once again, Ven in the right place at the right time to help out his jungler. That means an easy Primal Fury there for the Highland Ravens. I don't think this is going to be the same as last time where it was, okay, both objectives down, now we're silent. Both of these teams, you can see, look at Coast. He's not in duo lane, he's not farming. They're grouped around Fire Giant. They want to try and make for play here. It doesn't seem like the Eldritch Hounds are that scared of fight despite losing the past couple objectives.
Worth noting, unless I completely missed where the Ravens used them, believe they used the Runic Bombs on that Primal Fury just a moment ago, so won't have those for a Fire Giant fight. BennyQ gets abducted. Oh, that's a nice polymorph from Ven. Oathhh simply can't do anything. Anvil of Dawn may finish off this kill. CC immunity doesn't matter. No, double stun from Scream, and it's on to Quig and Coast, and Haddix has the follow-up. And BaRRa's right there as well. Oathhh survives, but it's at the life of a couple of his teammates. Make it a third, 3 down for the Eldritch Hounds, and the Highland Ravens simply catch them out. Hurriwind starts it, Scream finishes it, and BaRRaCCuDDa notches a couple.
I gotta give shouts out to Scream there. I think most of us would have taken that free kill on Oathhh and just went in, probably died in the process, but Scream recognizes, hey, Oathhh's not that worth it here. I can get a massive dunk, a massive two-man stun with this ultimate and confirm the win of the fight after the fact. And now a 19-minute Fire Giant going the way of the Ravens. And the Relics are not looking too hot for the Eldritch Hounds either. If they want to step up, I mean, Coast is going to have nothing. Benny's Aegis is down, and Ducky's beats are also down, whereas the Highland Ravens, they've got 4 beads to their name, and Haddix is still blinking with Colossal Fury. So they are able to fight right now if they need to. Ravens have FG on 5, though, and still one more Tier 1 tower to go through over in BaRRa's lane. So I'm thinking this may just be one of those, let's go for towers. You know, if they overstay their welcome, sure, we can try to fight, but Highland Ravens don't want to overstay their welcome. There's still some low XP going on here. That is a level 16 Thor at 20 minutes. Not exactly what you want to look towards.
Scream in Anvil of Dawn. Looks like he is, just as a mobile ward. Ducky will work down the Tier 1 tower. Again, veteran player in Ducky knows those small moments to open up some of that golden experience. Scream can fight here. Ducky's in some serious trouble. Should die.
Can he kill Scream?
Hercules. Nearly, yes. Actually, the bouncing boulder may have gotten something done. I admire the attempt from Ducky. Pyromancer. Looks like, sounded like a moment dropped by the Highland Ravens. No one ended up going for the Runic Bomb. There was an immediate rotation over to kill off Ducky, who trades out tower for his life. This Highland Ravens team, Trelly, now in 3 straight games, the 2 yesterday and this one here today, have just played so effectively around one another, and the team fights have looked great. It's really a squad that looks like early goings here of Season 10 are all on the same page.
Seems like it. They're on the same page. They've got the team fight presence down. We're like, all right, Scream's leading the charge. Haddix still has that ability to get active, get in the backline, be annoying, but it seems like just waiting for this Anvil of Dawn or waiting for the setup that comes before is enough to just kickstart a fight. Now the Highland Ravens get to push with their FG. It took a bit because of Ducky stalling out. Now only 50 seconds left on the actual buff, which means you're probably only looking at 1 or 2 Tier 2s depending on how this defense goes, and the Eldritch Hounds recognize that. They say, hey, your buff's falling off soon. We're going to step forward, and Ducky's going to frontline.
Oh man, Ducky just died and respawned. Has to be careful to avoid heading right back to base. Haddix has I guess kind of a gank opportunity here. Oathhh knows exactly where he is, as do the rest of the Hounds, but doesn't matter if you know where a Vamana is, if he's simply rumbling into your backline. Hurriwind knocked up into the side of the tower, and the snipes might be enough, and that's a Scarab's Blessing down in this fight. The Eldritch Hounds! No, you gotta get out now. Double tap from Scream, and the wall nearly enough. And it is enough once Haddix joins the fight. There's a Colossal Fury awaiting, and now it's turned on to Oathhh. Does Oathhh have the damage? And he does. Finally, 1 for this Fenrir. It's far from clean, but the base has officially been opened and exposed left Phoenix.
I mean, if Haddix blinks in, finishes that kill, and immediately is able to get into Colossal Fury, that fight is disastrous for the Eldritch Hounds, but unfortunately gets picked up by the Ragnarok. Too much damage. The ult comes a little bit late, and that shielding just was not able to kick in. Oathhh trades back a kill, the second of the game for the Eldritch Hounds. Remember, it's only 22 minutes in. That was 1 Fire Giant. The Eldritch Hounds have not been able to show too much fight back on neutral territory. If Phoenix doesn't help out, I don't think Haddix even dies there. So that doesn't bode well for them in a jungle fight scenario, but beads are down for Scream, and he has been a pivotal part of the Highland Ravens composition. Hurriwind also doesn't have beads, so I think Oathhh and Ducky have a lot of presence here where they could make this fight immediately a one-man down. It could be a 4v5 if Ragnarok's able to pick up Hurriwind, because if you're picking up Scream, Hurriwind's just going to ult it, not going to work out. But if you pick up Hurry and you're able to kill this Khepri before the engage starts, that might slow down the Highland Raven siege towards Fire Giant, but it doesn't seem like that's their call. Coast is over on left, Ducky's farming purple buff. We see this a lot recently as of Season 10. A lot of these teams that are down a fair bit, I mean, not end game numbers, but enough so where it's not enhanced Fire Giant, they're just going to give it up. They say, hey, you're not going for Phoenix yet. We're just going to grab a Tier 2 tower and try and catch up.
That's right. There'll be a back from Ven, unconcerned with the regular FG. You would assume the last normal Fire Giant of the game, though there will be 2 or 3 minutes before it gets enhanced if this game goes on past this mark, but the Ravens playing at such a quick pace here. The itemization of Haddix is going to be so difficult to work through. That spectral armor limits a lot of what VaporishCoast is hoping to do. He's got a Shoguns to simply stumble through that back line.
And animosity.
And animosity. So, what can you do if you're the Eldritch Hounds? Ven, half health shield working. Scream, a rare miss on the dunk. He'll make his way out of this fight for now.
That's Siege, that tier 2. Still on the cards here. Ducky gets cleansed out, but takes some damage for it. And there's Argus.
Wow, Hurriwind still soaking up that tower. Takes the Scarab's Blessing just to reset the aggro on the tower. Colossal Fury buys some space, as does the wall. Eldritch Hounds, they're not dying, which is, you know, checkbox number 1. 4 ultimates used by the Ravens just to break open another Phoenix. You'll have a Pyromancer here shortly, Trey. Remember, they being the Ravens, have been using these runic bombs around the objectives. They haven't stacked them up for the base siege. But is this dangerous for the Hounds? They've stepped up into the jungle, maybe trying to sense exactly where the Ravens are. Oathhh, though, finds his first in the Bloodforge shielding. My goodness, it's a disaster fight for the Ravens. The Hounds out of nowhere have caught the Ravens off guard in the jungle. And they've dealt now a massive punch to the Ravens. Those are long death timers. Troy, we could see the first Phoenix of the game to the Eldritch Hounds.
Certainly could. They've got plenty of time, and that chase down was beautiful. Can BaRRa and Haddix hold the door and try and keep this
not a
game
game-ending
going?
push, is it?
It certainly could be. I mean, BaRRa and Haddix have FG. Haddix's ult is coming back up. We'll have to see what the call that the Eldritch Hounds make. They're going in.
One fight. Is that all the Eldritch Hounds have needed? They have been down all game long. It has been perfect from the Ravens except one moment. And now it's BaRRa's chance to save things. The crits are needed. The Titan is low, but the Titan lives on. Haddix stumbles forward once again, and it looks like the Hounds make the call to leave. BaRRa and his solo laner have done enough for now, and the rest of the respawns are through.
Yeah, but your Titan takes a lot of damage here. What are the Highland Ravens going to do in the meantime? I thought try and chase down, but I guess Quig has too much movement speed there. That heal is able to get the team out of trouble. Haddix, unfortunately, was not able to finish up that item. He went for the Shadow Drinker there because he needed some extra damage. I can't imagine that's what he wanted. I think he was going Hasten, but it was like, hey, if we lose here, it doesn't matter how much gold I have, so I'm just going to finish this item. Luckily, BaRRa and Haddix had enough to stop that.
My goodness. We've had these half lower than half HP Titan defenses recently. Wow, look at the Hounds now. Unconcerned, uninterested in stepping forward out of their base. We'll have fire minions going down mid lane. You wonder how this now changes the mental, though, Trelly, of the Ravens. They've had a couple fire giants. They're in the driver's seat. They're hanging out. Do they now have to be careful around these FGs? The fire giant's going to respawn in a couple of minutes. It'll still be a regular FG. Scream is over on left here. The Hounds are out for blood. They're hunting in this jungle for just one overextended member of the Highland Ravens.
Yeah, I think that was just a great call by the Hounds to group up and fight in the jungle there. Does not mean that the Ravens need to be scared. They just need to stall 30 seconds for their relics. Of course, you don't want to fight when BaRRa's got nothing for the beads for 30 seconds and his Aegis down for a solid minute and a half. But you still do have the lead. You still do have the positional advantage once that Phoenix comes up. So Highland Ravens are playing stall duty. You said it right. There's no EFG. We've already seen the Hounds are able to just ignore a fire giant if the lead is too bad. So when you have a lead like this, I think the Ravens could just sit by and say, okay, if our relics are up, yeah, we'll step up. If that fire wave's cleared, sure, we'll go for a defense. But a soft defense, I don't think it's worth dying over at this point. You just need to try and get that Phoenix back up in mid and have that Titan start regenning some HP. The Eldritch Hounds are here, but they're not going for the pull immediately. They're waiting for Ducky to find something.
2.5 minutes or so on the mid lane Phoenix. Scream just wandering left. Going for a solo mission. He's pulling shield buff right now, and maybe that's just either A, we're not worried or actually considering the Hounds as a team that are going to pull FG, but they've got shred between BennyQ and Coast, who's got crit in his build. Mobile enough that a random Anvil of Dawn could catch the Eldritch Hounds off guard, as Hounds did to the Ravens just a few moments ago. And so unless you know exactly where this Thor is positioned, you got to sort of assume that he's somewhere behind you or in a spot to drop an Anvil of Dawn on you. But in reality, the Hounds, yeah, they're going to have a 4v5. Hurriwind's caught out. He's been using a lot of Scarab's Blessings on himself. Does he need it now? No, because BaRRaCCuDDa gets the beads and immediately uses the beads. Is that an opening enough for the Eldritch Hounds? They've got some sustain for Oathhh, who took some damage in there as well. But no, just the Pyromancer's the call.
Yeah, Scream showed himself, though, on that mid wave. No longer hiding. clears out. And that's enough for the Eldritch Hounds to start their pull. There was a lot used there for the Highland Ravens, but Oathhh catches him out.
Oathhh and Scream going toe-to-toe. Scream's got to leave. Both have used their beads, but Oathhh wants the chase down. There's an Anvil of Dawn for Scream. Oathhh does not have Ragnarok, and so Scream simply takes the escape path. Now, both junglers without ults, but Oathhh will have his here more soon. And so, for now, it looks like Oathhh has won that trade and has an advantage for his team.
Highland Ravens have stalled long enough. Their Phoenix is here, but this Fire Giant in 20 seconds will be enhanced. I don't think the Eldritch Hounds can juggle it that long, though. They're just going to go for it.
They're leaving it? No, 15 seconds before Enhanced Fire Giant. And so this will be a regular FG for the Eldritch Hounds, but there's still a fight to be had after the fact. Ducky does not get the pullback. Venslow! And the Excavate nearly gets it done, and it does after the ricochet. He had to dodge the snipes, but that sent him right into the path of a big old rock. And Ducky continues his warpath forward. What a turnaround in game one from the Eldritch Hounds. They've bought their time. And now, Trey, it looks like they may have bought themselves a win.
That mid Phoenix already went down, so Titan's no longer regenning. It's got some HP missing as well. The Eldritch Hounds pushing up right. Don't have any minions, but here comes the teleport from Ducky. That's going to be a tanky Hercules making his presence known on this right side bird.
Hurriwind, Scream, and BaRRaCCuDDa. They've got to get it done. 5 members of the Eldritch Hounds walking into the Titan room. And Scream just now gets his ultimate back. The Anvil of Dawn's got to be perfect, but somehow it's got to be better because the Hounds have the damage, and the Hounds have the win in game number 1 after what was a crazy turnaround in that mid-game. Caught out the Ravens after a pyro, broke a Phoenix, and turned around their advantage.
And I think we could probably make a highlight reel of Ducky's pulls alone this game. It seemed like any time he was in the back line, he was serving up someone for the team. Coast had plenty of damage on the follow-up. Unfortunately, it just seemed like positioning, once the Highland Ravens sort of lost their step, once they started to lose that lead that was just all Ravens from the early game, it was a little bit rough. I mean, Hurriwind just gets wrapped around on by essentially the whole team. Ward vision wasn't on point either. I think that the Ravens were a little discombobulated after that play.
And I think you could tell that Oathhh, an aggressive and very talented player, though new to the league, knows his power spikes well. He was simply zoning out Scream by the end of that game. Didn't need Ragnarok, knew that he would win that trade, and life was so difficult for Scream. Had to hide around the minion waves, never found the dunk in. And it's the Eldritch Hounds taking game number 1 after the Ravens looked so clean for the vast majority of it. The newcomers to the SPL, they deal the first blow in this best of 3. We'll see what happens in game 2 up next.
And you all wanna be round. Yeah, you all wanna be round. Round a champion. I got tons of soul on my true collectible. Famous, oh so famous, #1 desirable. I do what I want when I want and how I want it. Leave you with the one in, yeah, that's how I roll. I got change to throw, I don't care about no gold. Better, so much better, flipping incredible. Always on the show, so they know that I still got it. And I never feel sorry, yeah, to the world. This is me, I'm so royal. And you all wanna be round. Yeah, you all wanna be round. Round a champion. This is me, I still on it. Cause you all wanna be loved. Yeah, you all wanna be loved. But a champion. When I hear him come like my fuse and then ba-bum. Later, see you later, I'm about to blow this up. You can sing my song if you want, I know you want it. It's always kinda funny, yeah, cause I know I'm a superstar in the sky to lead you on. Haters gonna hate us, approve of how they love. They can bring me down, nah. They are jealous of me and my umbrella, yeah, they love me so. This is me, I'm so royal. And you all wanna be round. Yeah, you all wanna be round. Round a champion. This is me, I still on it. Cause you all wanna be loved. Yeah, you all wanna be loved. But a champion. Yeah. All I wanna do is just say, you don't understand how I play. I am on my way to win you over and over, yeah. Oh, you can hear my voice in your head, and you wanna hear it again. So you play it over and over and over, yeah. This is me, I'm so
Well, in a game one that looks so strong for the Highland Ravens to kick things off, turns around in one big team fight around the Pyromans about 24 minutes in. The Eldritch Hounds are your ones to walk away with a win in game number one. If you want to support the Eldritch Hounds or the Highland Ravens, I was hyping up so much I liked and about how much I enjoyed seeing the Highland Ravens jerseys, thinking they're pretty clean. If you want to get one, you can. If you go to shop.hi-rezstudios.com/SPLU, you can pick up your favorite jersey for some of our new teams. Remember, we got new brands in the league this year, the Gladiators, the Ferrymen, the Highland Ravens, and the Hounds all jumping in. So all new jerseys for some of your favorite players and teams out there. You can pick up not just jerseys, but hoodies, and I believe some t-shirts as well for all of your favorite teams in the SMITE Pro League. Thank you so much to Skulls for coming back with us in Season 10 of the SMITE Pro League and providing us such beautiful merchandise, honestly, for our teams out there. That said, game number one, Mifflin, this one was looking so great for the Highland Ravens. They built themselves a nice lead, got set up for a fight around Pyro Fire, and then it all fell apart in one fell swoop. And the Eldritch Hounds not only win that fight, they take a Phoenix and then one Fire Giant team fight later, and that's the end of the game.
And usually it's the inverse conversation. The rookie team to the SPL plays really well, has one mistake, and gets treated the SPL punishment treatment, which is you lost the game now because of your one mistake. This time, it's the rookies doing it to the veterans. The Eldritch Hounds off that Pyromancer battle nearly close out the game in its entirety. I thought maybe even at the time while I was watching fumble to not all in and try and end the game as quickly as possible. But it's a vote of confidence from the Eldritch Hounds and their ability to team fight afterward, and I think rightfully so. Just really liked the performance from Oathhh in particular. Felt like he stepped up. I thought it was going to be a major contention point in the late game, whether or not this Fenrir would find value. Won't catch me doubting Oathhh anymore. He found his value and then some. As well as Quig. I think the cleanses from this hell were integral to a lot of these team fights. So often you'd see Ducky starting to move forward, and immediately the Ravens would back up, say, okay, we can't get pulled out here. Let's throw out some CC. Then toss out a polymorph or a scream, toss out a wall, buy us some time. Every single time Quig was ready with the cleanse. Even there, I mean, another massive bit of CC immunity for his team just to make sure that fight can continue going in their favor. So the Hounds, they come with a composition and a strategy, and they execute on it well.
And I think even there at the very end of the game, the casters right to hype up Ducky on this Hercules, specifically finding pull after pull, knock-up after knock-up to keep putting the Ravens out of position, even if there's only one member at a time. That slowly starts to add up over the course of the game whenever now your carry has to use his beads because, well, Ducky found the pick, or now your Thor is pushed out of position and has to use hammer for escape as opposed to maybe some form of damage. Ducky really helping set the momentum there alongside Quig throughout that game. So definitely some props to the frontliners for the Eldritch Hounds and Oathhh on that Fenrir. I mean, this is a composition myth that we talk about being maybe a little bit more early game slanted for the Ravens, a little bit more difficult to fight into those late game team fights, but end up finding just a couple of crucial picks in some big moments that these players needed it.
Yeah, I don't want to leave too much at the feet of the Ravens either. One mistake, I think, considering the lead that they had established up until that point, it's not often you'd see a punishment as hefty as the Eldritch Hounds were able to line up against them. So if the Ravens find themselves running back a very similar composition going into Game 2, you won't catch me questioning them. They controlled every bit of the early game. The Hounds, on the other hand, I think, based on the pace of that game, even with a victory in their column, I wouldn't mind seeing some slight adjustments to their composition just because you can't rely on such a major fumble from the Ravens around a Pyromancer battle 2 games in a row. If you're losing as handily as they were in the early game, I wouldn't mind if the Hounds find just a little bit more pressure on map.
Jumping into the picks and bans for game number 2 between the Ravens and the Hounds. Cernanos, the first ban by the Ravens. We've been seeing a lot more Hunter bans as of recent. I mean, we look kind of towards the beginning of this competitive season, Miff. We saw very little Ishtar and Cern bans, yet those were kind of the top 2 Hunters kind of rolling in, especially into this season, this phase, more than anything else. Been seeing at least signs of light of Jing Ram kind of popping in now with Martikaros available. Been seeing a lot of priority towards him as well between the pros. But now starting to see some of those Hunter bans. As mentioned, the Cern taken away. We saw Ishtar banned last time around. Now something that BaRRaCCuDDa was playing exclusively, at least in his first set of the weekend. Didn't get to see it there. I wonder if we'll see it or the Marty make it through this time around. As it's Hell, Yamoja, and Guan Yu, 3 big healers and 3 big impact gods all taken off the table.
As it stands, one of the 2 value hunters likely will make it through. I don't imagine the Highland Ravens feel the need to ban out either Ishtar or Marty from this position if the Hounds do. I mean, it would just go answered on the other side. But the reason we see these hunter bans a little bit more prevalent now is because the greater evil at the time was the healers. The Aphrodites had to be removed. Felt like hell was getting banned every single game. Now these SPL teams start to figure out how they want to play with and or around those picks. Have decided to address maybe some of these larger contention points. Hercules, I think, deserves to be in that conversation as the Ravens do decide to take it off the table. That Hercules, one, just Ducky's bread and butter. He absolutely loves this pick. But two, one of the winningest gods so far here in Season 10.
Yeah, it's definitely one that we've been seeing as one of the highest priority picks as well. Even when a couple of these top prio hunters have been left available, Hercules usually always rounds out at least in that top 2, if not top 3, for just about any team that's left open. So banned away, now Eldritch Hounds. You were mentioning maybe one of those premier hunters does need to be left open, whether it be the Ishtar or the Marty.
I think you have to leave
for
both
the
here.
Hounds. So you leave both up, take something away, and then you just kind of get at least the scraps of what was left over from them?
Yeah, I think maybe you could toss out a Guardian ban here. If you're worried about some of that front line of a Mana ban, wouldn't be too off the mark here from the Hounds. But if you ban out either Ishtar or Marty, you just leave the other value hunter available to the other. Suppose the Hounds just not interested in taking one or the other for themselves, or maybe they evaluate that Marty so much higher over the Ishtar that they think it's necessary to ban it out. With Rom still available as well, I mean, there are value hunters on the table. I wonder, though. We'll see. Maybe my power rankings, my internal power rankings, are also incorrect. I thought the Ravens would just be snap-locking Ishtar here. They're going to take their time, think it through.
Quite a few selections available. I mean, obviously, there's only 6 gods being taken out, and seeing an average of 60+ over the course of a weekend, usually. It's kind of the MO here in the SPL, so wonder where the Ravens will go first.
Horus.
Maybe not the first selection that I would imagine for this team. One that we have seen, especially when you take up the bolts of old. Haddix specifically is one that he's played multiple times in the solo lane, but also certainly something that could flex over for Hurriwind in support role.
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. A lot of flexibility with the Horus. But another reason I was projecting the Ravens to go ahead and just take away the Ishtar is because VaporishCoast jam locks Ishtar constantly.
He loves that
He
pick.
played it exclusively at Worlds. He played it during his run up to Worlds as well. In his last 6 games, 3 of which have been on the Ishtar as well. So I thought almost just a pseudo ban. Not only would you take the last remaining value hunter or highest value hunter, but you would have got an indirect ban towards VaporishCoast on the other side. Instead, the Horus locked in for the Highland Ravens. It's the healing, I suppose. It's the mobility that affords his team, the linear initiation, standardizing your team fight. Horus, of course, an incredibly strong pick, and one that keeps the Eldritch Hounds guessing on the composition, as you said, a certain degree of flexibility there. But giving over the Hounds their bread and butter, especially for one of their premier players, one of the guys who's got a lot of buzz around him, might just come back and bite you.
Vamana, Ishtar for the Hounds. Now Horus, Nox, and Izanami for the Ravens. We've been seeing a little bit of Izanami, at least at the SCC level. The NA and EU teams both kind of jumping this god up whenever one of those premier hunters, or I should say both of them, usually taken away at that point. And with the Nox locked in as well, something we typically only see in that support role, so maybe this Horse going over to Haddix. How do you kind of feel about a Nox Izanami lane? Not just in the early stage, Izanami we know is going to be really good with that wave clear, but kind of maybe the scaling of that dual lane.
I think it's got very high early game kill potential. One of the, I hesitate to say weaknesses of Nox, but maybe one of the speed bumps Nox runs into is that they'll often throw out Shadow Lock in lane for poke. You want your ADC to follow up, but the only time you're able to find value Shadow Lock is generally when the waves have met, right? If the waves have met, it's a little bit harder to line up that ADC poke because the waves will block out those autos. Izanami does not struggle with that. So Shadow Lock should be guaranteed damage into your opposition so long as Izanami is within range. This could lead and should likely lead to the Ravens getting a significant advantage in the laning phase so far as pressure is concerned for their 2v2 over in the duo lane. But with Aphrodite locked in for the Hounds and presumably for support, some of that poke, that concern of poke that I bring up, is alleviated a bit. Now you've got sustain in lane, constant for your Ishtar. Should make it a little bit more difficult for the Ravens to find that kill pressure they were looking for.
Second wave of bans rolls by pretty quickly. Fenrir and BaRRaCCuDDa, the call for the Highland Ravens, still leaves open that Thanatos that we saw at least banned away earlier from the Hounds in game number 1. Meanwhile, the Hounds will take a couple of shots at Scream, really in both of those picks. We saw the Anubis earlier in the weekend in that first game up against their opposition. The Ravens drafted that one in. Took a little while for it to get online, but worked real well with the Zeus in combo. And then Thor, just from last game, Scream had a great start on that one. Just an unfortunate tumble at the end. The Eldritch Hounds have now picked up Oathhh, something that was a top pick for a little while, but seems to have maybe fallen out of priority with these two teams, Myth.
I mean, Hebo is just so good, J-Mac. I don't imagine that we've seen the last of him. Just fast power spikes, the god of 4 ultimates, one-shot potential through the roof. Atlas the Yellow River, a very strong disengage and chase down tool for your team. And I think, and I've said it plenty and I'll continue to say it, it's a byproduct of the itemization shifts that we've seen here in Year 10. With Doom Orb and Spear of Desolation being as powerful as they are, as statted as they are, and available so early in your build, gods like Hebo and these magical junglers are just going to, what feels like at times, outscale and outpace some of the standard assassins. With that said, we've seen Hebo in a couple of lanes. We've seen him in mid. I believe we've seen him in solo. SOT's taken it there once or twice. Pagon, certainly one of the premier Hebo players on a mid. And with the Susano hover, I'm not so certain anymore that this Hebo is headed for Oathhh in the jungle, instead likely for BennyQ. So what does that mean for his direct lane opponent, the Thoth on the other side? Thoth telegraphed when he wants to start sending off his damage, right? Spawn up that hieroglyphic wall. For the most part, Hebo can close up gap there, use that water spout, disjoint Thoth's combo, apply that poke pretty easily. If you're able to catch him off guard, crushing wave off a water spout alone, 2 items into the build, just threatening enough that Thoth is probably going to have to play very passively.
Now, if it wasn't for one player in the league in particular, I probably would never have to pose this question to you, Myth, but do you think that there's a world where this Susano maybe goes to BennyQ in the mid lane, fight up against that Thoth? It's something that we saw Pagon would typically use. I think even a couple of instances up against Venenu in that Dragons versus Bolts matchup during the time. So do you think there's a world that Susano might be going towards that mid lane?
It's certainly possible, and I would even argue a better matchup than Hebo. Hebo, I brought up, you've got the potential in that mid game to just one-shot the Thoth, and that's true. But up until that point, Thoth has got such a range advantage that it makes it difficult for you to leverage that damage output that Hebo's got over him. Whereas Susano, you are constantly threatening this Thoth early, mid, and late game. If you land the pull, you're landing your entire combo regardless. Evade and punish, just easily chased out by that slipstream. So potential for Susano to go mid, but not necessary by any stretch of the imagination. You've certainly got the ability as a jungler to get as involved as in mid, or maybe even more so involved in mid than even the mid laner themselves because of the gank pass and the routing that you're allowed. So is it a possibility? Absolutely. It's BennyQ. It could be anything. He could take that Ishtar mid and force a Hebo ADC, right? That's just what he brings to his teams, that unpredictability. But if I had to choose, I probably would still lean with Hebo mid.
Now, at least on paper to me, Myth, this feels like two compositions that are very scrappy in nature. Maybe not necessarily one that does better in the late game compared to the other. Maybe a lot of early game brawling for these two comps. I mean, you have a Nox and a Serqet as a combination. If one doesn't get a set of beads, the other one surely should be able to get at that point. Do you feel that this is maybe a game that could be centered around a bit more early focus for these squads, or do you think that this is one that maybe they push a little bit later?
Both these compositions are decent in the late game. You've got really strong scaling pieces. Hebo and Thoth both really hit their stride around level 20. Serqet certainly has the potential to get involved early, but I would argue falls off a little bit more so than Susano does. In the late game, when you've got an assassin with an AoE ability that can really disrupt a team fight, you tend to favor that a little bit more, whereas Serqet is all single target. So early game pick potential through the roof for the Ravens. They've got plenty of single target CC and the damage to follow it up. But I wouldn't say that the Ravens look at this draft and say, look, if we don't win early, we're going to lose. They can slow it down as well.
We'll see if the Highland Ravens can find those early picks and maybe find success in game number 2. Let's go ahead and delay no further and jump right into the action.
Highland Ravens had all of the early success in game 1. One mistake around Pyromancer flipped the game on its head. Gave the Eldritch Hounds all the momentum, really in like a 5 or 10 minute span at the end of game number 1. And truly, the Eldritch Hounds have pivoted their draft pretty heavily, so have the Highland Ravens, effectively getting an entirely new look at both compositions here. Admittedly, I'm intrigued. Susano plus Hebo plus Aphrodite late game assassin damage, especially around relics from Ven and BaRRa, could hit home. It could hit hard.
I don't know that we've seen the Afro Susano actually work yet.
Well, we've only seen it once, right?
Well, in the SPL, yes, but I mean, since the Afro Bucks came through, we've seen it at the SEC level once or twice. We saw
Couples
it at the
everywhere,
and it
punching
just,
air.
I haven't seen it work yet. I'm excited. Maybe it will. This seems like a good draft here for the Eldritch Hounds. If you're going to dive the back line of a very low peel composition into a Thoth with no like immediate Khepri res or something like that, this seems like as good of a comp as any. I mean, Oathhh and Quig should be able to delete Ven consistently in this game. So if it ever was going to work, this would be the time. With that said, though, I do think that Scream on the Serqet could be a problem. The recent buffs to the Serqet, getting just free crit chance once you get access to that ultimate, it really does start to add up. It means you can either A, go Rage and Deathbringer and have a 100% crit chance late game, or B, just tech in one Deathbringer and then just get some random crits and hope it works out for you. All of those are a possibility, and I think Scream's damage could be going through the roof as this game continues.
Yep. Scream was active all throughout the game in game 1 on the Thor. Later in the game, though, ended up just kind of losing those 1v1s up against the Fenrir. Their life was difficult. Remember, nearly saw first blood in game 1, the 2v2 in mid at level 2. At least won't see it here in the first couple of levels. Quig and Coast had a nice small advantage there. It's a small thing, doesn't end up culminating into too much, but just a bit quicker to the wave, hit level 2, and were able to put some pressure onto Hurriwind and BaRRaCCuDDa and shove that lane back just a bit. This dual lane's interesting though, Trilly. Of course, we talked about Afro, seen it a couple times, hasn't necessarily been the world breaker that we were expecting. Pair it with Coast in lane, could be a good start. Love the read there from BennyQ, immediate knock up onto Scream. That's followed by a blink from Oathhh and sends Scream right back. So half HP and trade for blink on the other side, not too shabby one way or another. Don't get to see a lot of Izanami though, Trelly, and that's on the other side of this dual lane. BaRRaCCuDDa, remember, did not get much wave pressure in game 1. Iza should be able to at least safely clear these waves. But fighting later in the game, that's the big question.
Yeah, Iza's been the answer to this Ishtar more often than not. BennyQ has blink, and because of that, Scream wants to try and find a kill. This should.
That's damage. That's damage. BennyQ! Oh no, it's not enough damage! My goodness, one last auto. One hit of anything would have gotten first blood. But BennyQ slithers away. Scream saw the opening, had the lockdown. Ven, we hit level 3. Man, these junglers, they are red in the eyes for a kill over in mid, playing aggressively. So is Coast, though. Dashes forward. It's not connected to BaRRaCCuDDa. Somehow we remain at 0-0. But it's really BennyQ who's under the largest threat there, the closest to death we've seen so far in game 1.
That's what I'm talking about. I mean, Scream recognized, hey, this Hippo has blink. Like they want to get aggressive. They want to try and find a kill. But until you get Crushing Wave, until you get that ultimate, you don't have that delete button. You don't have CC immunity, and you have no way to close gap, especially when there's a Serqet and an invade and punish. That should have been a kill. That was 100% a drop there from Scream, but they didn't quite have as much damage as he thought. I don't think you want to try and count on that ambush, that leap for the kill. So unfortunate, and I think probably underestimated, or I guess overestimated, how much damage Ven was going to dish out on the Thoth. You really should be able to find pressure onto that Hebo pre-level 5, but since it didn't happen, and since that kill doesn't come through, now Ven's in trouble. Right now, you've got that ability to blink in, Water Spout, and just delete the Thoth off the map. I'm thinking Ward Vision, staying underneath tower, and constantly watching your corners is going to be the call here for Venenu for quite some time. I mean, there's just plenty of aggressive targets all around the map, around mid lane in particular, that want to try and kill this Thoth.
Well, they found pressure, but the pressure didn't ultimately end up changing the face of the mid lane all that heavily. Now everyone associated with mid lane and the game in general hits level 5. So Benny plus Oathhh Trelly now at level 5. That's got to be their big power spike. You can combine for a whole lot of damage. Typhoon knock up, knock down with Crushing Wave. That's just so Nox, and Nox stopping a back just for whatever reason is just a little extra obnoxious. But Hurriwind on this pick. If you're hitting enough, Nox can change the game. However, who was it who sat down? I think it was it Magic Feet who sat down and said Nox really isn't all that annoying because all you need to do is dodge like the little silent zone and dodge the root, and then she's worthless or something like that.
He said Nox is not all that annoying. Morgan Le Fay is infinitely more annoying.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think Nox is annoying when you get silenced, but if you're better and you just juke it, you should be fine. Now we'll have to see if BaRRa's better. He's getting chased down.
Wow. Well played by Oathhh. Follows the dash away. BennyQ's over the wall. A double stun from VaporishCoast. And Benny holds onto the crushing wave for just this moment. But he rolls forward right into Ven. And now Benny has done too much. Doesn't have the damage for Hurriwind. And while the Highland Ravens thanking the Eldritch Hounds for taking that fight, it's an early kill onto BaRRaCCuDDa, but a double answer back from the Ravens.
Yeah, good aggression there. I think that Benny wanted to try and save that ultimate for one kill. Once the kill comes through, he's like, well, might as well just send it and look for Hurriwind. Too much tank stats and a great ultimate from Venenu just to put some pressure back. Now the Ravens are going to get the better end of that trade kill-wise and, of course, gold-wise, but you give that kill to Scream, and I think that's what's most important because Oathhh has a fantastic teleport there, follows BaRRaCCuDDa over the wall, and if you get that Susano off to a great start without Scream getting that kill, it can get annoying. If you've seen the positioning of both these junglers, they've been meeting up at a lot of camps, towards mid more often than not. And if you just see that meet up and you realize, hey, I'm behind, I can't fight, you have to forfeit a lot of that XP. Now, you're able to match builds at least a little bit, whereas Oathhh going Transcendence and Scream going Jotuns, they could still scrap in a 1v1. If they meet up in the jungle. That sort of thing does start to add up. I think that's a smart call just to make sure that Oathhh is able to confirm that kill. And now, putting that pressure. It's currently nowhere, but I still think duo lane could be a spot to look. BaRRaCCuDDa falling down once already means Aziza could be a target.
Well, BennyQ used the knock-up as well, I think, on, maybe it was onto Ven. Nearly had enough damage to kill off Hurriwind with the water hands. The water spout goes elsewhere. BennyQ's getting a kill, but good positioning from Hurriwind sends that moment right on back. Oathhh initiated on by Scream here. Gotta be a kill, it is. And that is a final judgment right to the face, and Oathhh drops. Quick, easy lockdown. Oathhh also with Blink, Trelly. This double assassin-y style out of mid, finally feeling a bit more punished. Good positioning from both Scream and Ven, who have really been playing well with one another, around one another early into Season 10 here. Some experience with one another in the past, but seemingly picking up right where they left off.
Yeah, at this point, because of the starts, I want to see Hurriwind gone. I want to see him stop holding BaRRaCCuDda's hand, and there's two great targets without beads that you can consistently look for.
That's hard to do.
For these lockdowns.
You're telling me you're holding BaRRaCCuDda's hands, and you're giving that up willingly?
I mean, you don't want to, but if you want your team to win, you say, BaRRaCCuDda, listen.
If you love him,
if you love something, let him go. And he'll eventually come back and carry you at level 20.
Fair enough.
And at this point, I think that Susano and Benny, or Benny and Oathhh, is too good of targets to try and find lockdown on with Nox. Let go of his hand, go mid, and that's where he's heading now. We get to see a young Nox just letting BaRRaCCuDDa flourish on his own. And look at this, he's even got pressure. This is what happens when you stop holding his hand.
BaRRaCCuDda's doing just fine. Just needed a little space to grow. Actually, it could happen again here. The Highland Ravens far in the Eldritch Hounds side of the jungle. Maybe catching someone unawares. We're never ultimately spotted out. Just a bit of positioning change, a bit of pathing change one way or another. Would have been Scream plus Hurriwind running into Quig and Benny, or Quig and Oathhh. One or the other depending on it. So I admire it from the Highland Ravens. You know where the ward coverage is and is not. You make your extension there. So with all the fighting, that 2-kill lead, it's only about 600 or 700 gold in the lead for the Highland Ravens early into the game here. Is this always a game, though, where the Eldritch Hounds, if you can keep the lead under control, you're going to value yourself late in the game, or the Highland Ravens going to take it to you even or otherwise? I
think that this is a game where letting the Eldritch Hounds get to late game is a threat. They always are going to have a very nasty late game because you either have the Susano Afro combo, or what I would do, you got Hebo Afro. Just let Benny blink to the back line. If you can stay linked, he's immune. He's going to be deleting someone, whether that's Ven or BaRRaCCuDDa with his combo, and he's going to be that safe. It is very hard to try and fight into that, as you can see. Oathhh actually blinks in here looking for Hurriwind.
Whoa, Hurriwind takes a mountain of damage. Typhoon, not enough. Oh, and the water spout doesn't hit from Benny. It's another dropped kill onto Hurry. Now Scream is here. Crushing wave used. Stun in as well. BennyQ gotta drop, and he does, and it's a kill on one side of the mid lane, but not the one you'd expect after that fight started.
Yeah, you can tell BennyQ did not want to ult for that kill. Hurriwind was in range, about to get knocked up, had the water spout, just misses. And after that, when you use the ultimate to try and immune the Cobra's kiss from Scream, the last breath is going to come after. That ultimate is guaranteed, hard to miss, and this Hebo just doesn't have beats, so that's as easy as they come. Good regank opportunity for the Ravens. Able to pick up 2 kills, and now, you highlighted it already, it's difficult to step up as a Hebo to a Thoth, right? The range is hard to walk up to. Now Ven is getting further and further ahead. As long as that blink is kept in check, you can use that hieroglyphic assault to keep him in combat. You're going to have some trouble just even clearing waves when Venenu's around.
Yep, Ven, so talented, has played a variety of picks already here in Season 10. BaRRa might just get both Bastions here in one fell swoop. This is satisfying. And the last drop. That's what Izanami brings you. Just gives you an open moment. Granted, BaRRa's level 12, so should be happening around then anyway. Then the name of the game on the flip side, Trelly, has got to be how do we dive on to this Thoth? Early on, Ven has just been able to step back. Hurriwind eats a lot of the damage, a lot of the initiation. Leaves Ven in just free cast territory, you'd think. Susano and Hebo with Blink, as you've mentioned. Blink, blink, blink. It's so important.
I don't think I've seen Benny blink, actually.
Right, we haven't. Or if we have, it's been defensively, and I'm not even sure I've seen that.
And Beats definitely would have saved him at least once.
At least once. But that's just a Benny mindset, right?
That's fair.
Not that makes it the correct call, but the mindset is to be aggressive at all times. And how about this from the Hounds? Pyromancer, Oathhh is low. Gotta have secure here, but is there a fight after the fact? Should be, because Haddix can close the gap. Undying Love gets used. Quig is in range, and Oathhh teleports out. But watch out, Haddix is going to close the gap. Ven dashes forward, and there's just simply no threat to push back against the Highland Ravens. This could get messy if the last bit of CC connects onto Quig, who is solo. Benny, there's your blink, and a crushing wave. Quig will die off. And all of this for a Pyromancer. Benny goes back in. It's because Ducky's here to fight.
Ducky is here, goes up in the Colossal Fury, but you're only stomping on Hurriwind. The damage is here, but BaRRaCCuDDa is not able to finish it. Someone catch Haddix. There you go. Someone goes back. You got to have someone to dash to.
Man.
And there
Hurry has been 2 HP so many times. That has got to be frustrating that Hurriwind continuously has been escaping this game. Been down in the red HP threshold. Just has not been punished for it. Ducky is already over here. Whereas it looks like Haddix with beads
this is a gold pull.
And blink going back towards right. Yeah, Eldritch Hounds, they're going to have an advantage if Ducky sticks over here. Haddix not rotating in. This would be a nice win for the Eldritch Hounds, but BaRRaCCuDDa is close. You're going to have a numbers advantage in the fight. But you cannot let this get stolen by the Izanami. This is your ticket back into this game a bit. And the Gold Fury does not get stolen, confirmed by the Hounds. And just like that, call the gold equalized.
Yeah, love that call. Ducky comes over, is not able to clean up too much, but he stands there, and that's going to be the good call. Finally, Benny has beads. Does Ven hit these?
Oh
he
my
hit
God!
those!
What a play from Ven. We have seen Ven struggle as a Thoth into Assassins, and it's been anything but here in Game 2. 4-0-2. Everything connects onto Benny, including the final judgment, and that's the final nail over in the mid lane. 10 seconds on the respawn, 0-3 on the Hebo.
I was going to say, finally, Benny's got beads. He's fine. Nope, Ven doesn't need the lockdown to hit those. Evade and punish, full hieroglyphic assault, and then the final judgment just as the cherry on top. Beautiful damage, and we've said it once, we've said it again. You can't step up to a Thoth as a Hebo. You need that ultimate, and he didn't quite have it. BennyQ now has Crushing Wave, but look at this. At speed bump, they're brawling.
They sure are. Oathhh sends out his ultimate. And it looks like we'll survive this time. Oathhh is 2 levels down from Scream. BennyQ is 2 levels down from Ven. I mean, if you're the Hounds, I feel like you've got to pump the brakes at this point in the game. Get yourself to level 20 as quickly as you can. Gold, as we mentioned, is hanging in there, but the rest of this game getting a bit out of control. Coast at least not terribly behind BaRRa. 1 level deficit there as well. Effectively across the map, you're behind right now if you're the Eldritch Hounds. And we know the Ravens, Trilly, they will not shy away from an early Fire Giant pull. That's got to be something in the next 5 minutes the Eldritch Hounds are aware of.
Certainly could be. They've been playing as aggressively as possible given the situation. Unfortunately, That pull over on left was a little bit out of their control. BaRRa goes for the steal, but besides that, I think the Ravens have been able to step up more often than not. Coast is trying to pull beads off BaRRaCCuDDa, is stepping up, but BaRRa's not giving an inch. He's saying, hey, I'm not here to fight. I'm going to stick around. Beautiful stun, BennyQ.
Oh my god.
See you later.
This has just been a headache for BennyQ. Van has just won this trade time and time again. It's been too clean over in mid. Quig not going to be helped out. Double kill for Venenu. Could be a triple as a root connects onto Oathhh. No objectives immediately on left. However, the one we've talked about on right, it looms. Another speed buff fight. This is a Highland Ravens team that probably feels like they should have won game 1 minus a mistake. God, I feel like they've got a really good look at sending us to a game 3 here. Pyromancer's about to respawn. Fire still may be a lofty goal, but my goodness, a 3-level lead for Ven. 6-0-2 on the Thoth. And a lot of it's been Ven, yes, but some of these kills have been hand-delivered by the team. Yeah,
Ven is just pretty much everywhere they need to be. And I think beautiful CC there from Scream, recognizing that there's no beads on Benny. If he doesn't pre-ult this stun, which even if he did, he was still going to be run down, to be clear. I think the play was either ult aggressively or don't ult at all, which he didn't. Quig didn't have ultimate up for that immunity, so it's just very easy to keep consistently going for that damage. Hurriwind's going to stop this Pyromancer pull in its tracks, but dishing some damage out over the wall as well. Oathhh beats it. Here comes Haddix with the ult.
Haddix ults forward. That's really just buying space. Coast is going to rotate out a duo. Pyromancer low. Final Judgment charged. Bit of a juggling, though, of the Pyromancer. Awkward moments. Eldritch Hounds now the ones picking it up. Ravens gotta feel comfortable here. The XP lead is the big thing coming into this fight. Itemization outside of mid may be somewhat equal, but as long as you're keeping Ven alive, you are feeling A-okay. Pyromancer gets pulled, picked up. Well, the Runic Bomb still hovering somewhere on that side of the jungle. Might be Hurriwind, who's drawn the task of picking it back up, but a good clean objective secure there from the Highland Ravens. As the timer continues to tick down for the Eldritch Hounds. It's a looming fire giant. Lots of towers still to drop down on either side of the map, and so the gold fury, or the gold lead rather, has just been built up from kills and some of the smaller objectives, but could get out of control with one more fight.
And that could be coming soon. Primal Fury's up. Already the Hounds are going to get some vision down, but they aren't going to start the pull. I saw Oathhh and Quig walk up, and I was thinking, you go for the 50-50, you try and go for the Hail Mary play. I don't think it's necessary. The Eldritch Hounds are down, but they're not out. This is certainly a game that they could be looking to fight into. I mean, they still have Hebo. I think that VaporishCoast in particular has been able to stay relatively even to BaRRa despite all of these objectives going the way of the enemy team. So if you're in a situation where you go into a fire giant fight, 5v5, and you're just counting on the Thoth to actually confirm that, there's always the possibility of just CCing him, right?
Right.
You can't channel Final Judgment when there's a knock-up in play. You can't channel Final Judgment when you're getting stunned, you know, that sort of thing. So I think that the Fire Giant fight still looks decent for the Hounds that they're able to stick around. You don't have to force these fights around Primal Fury just yet.
Been less than no pressure on Ven throughout the majority of Game 2. Gotta change for the Eldritch Hounds if you want to take down the Ravens here and avoid going on to a game number 3. That's where your eyes go, to this Thoth. Primal Fury, man, that's a lofty fight. Ducky seems to agree. He's going to send some pressure. Over to the tier 2 on right. So again, you're opening up these win conditions. Remember, that was big for the Eldritch Hounds, who are likely going to lose the Primal Fury. Do indeed. Oh, Highland Ravens, rather, confirm the Fury. But remember, all the Eldritch Hounds needed in Game 1 was a win condition. They had an open Phoenix. They won one fight at the 20 or so minute mark. And then immediately ran down mid lane, opened up the Phoenix, dropped the Titan low, ran it back just a few minutes later. So if you're drawing silver linings here, it's that Ducky has now opened up the first Phoenix of the game, and it's on the Highland Ravens side of the map.
It is chasing down Ducky. Doesn't seem like a great call here. Ven was a little bit too far, and they didn't have the damage, but the Fury's down. And now we get to see the Highland Ravens group up 3 strong, but Haddix is in the sky here. He's bringing down himself. It looks like not to find any aggression, just to see who's hovering in the jungle. Ducky once again might get caught out here. Remember, he's got shielding this time. The anti-heal's not going to be as big of a difference. and he's going to be just fine. But Fire Giant could be the call here. VaporishCoast, he's on the other side of the map, and BaRRa, he's already over at FG.
Coast is on left. That minion wave may get the tower, but Coast unconcerned. Charlie, you and I talked about this, and really the Eldritch Hounds unconcerned. We've talked about this. These early Fire Giants, I mean, it's a 1,500 gold lead right now, and we've talked about how dire it really is. A lot of that with Ben, who's 2 levels ahead. Teams who are even just a little bit behind have felt kind of unconcerned with the early FGs. Of course, you'd love to stop it, but maybe feeling like if you step up and you lose a fight, it's just simply not worth stopping the Highland Ravens from getting that Fire Giant. They still have so many towers to work through. And it seems the Hounds are okay just taking a bit of a slower pace to this game, maybe not sensing that much threat from the first Fire Giant of the game at 19 minutes.
No, and they keep splitting the map so well. I mean, Ducky goes right, sends Scream over, gets the tier 2. Then back over to left, VaporishCoast looking at tier 2, so Haddix makes the rotation. Now once again, Ducky is pushing a Phoenix. Scream has to try and stop it. And here's Quig and Oathhh in the jungle. Are they looking to fight this or just trying to get out? It looks like just steal as much farm as possible, but even then, Haddix is here, Scream's here, they want to fight.
Oathhh dashes away. Haddix may have lockdown. Typhoon canceled out by the To the Sky. Scream stunned, or drops a stun, and it's Oathhh who gets killed off. That's pretty simple. That's an awkward moment for the Hounds where you're thinking, okay, we might open up a Phoenix, we can see what Ducky gets, but then the Ravens are able to collapse in. The initial mindset, okay, and really what the Hounds have done, Trelly, despite losing their jungler for the 4th time this game, they've burnt away, what, a minute and a half or so of this Fire Giant buff. And the Ravens haven't had much to show for it just yet, but still have some time to work these towers down.
They do. Ducky is still over and right. We saw him sort of Scooby-Doo run around the rock at the same time as Scream, saying, hey, you don't know I'm here. I'm going to stick around and clear waves, which means Scream is not going to be joining this fight. He's going to stick over on right. Tier 2 over on the left is just 3 strong until Hurriwind shows up. And it looks like Ducky's fine with taking this fight, so you're right. Stalling out the FG is the call here. The Hounds are saying, hey, let's make sure they don't get enough with that buff. So far, that tower is going to be the only thing.
Ooh, nice double stun there from Coast. Tier 2 is gone. Haddix has been leading the charge, fighting back into Ven. Ven kiting away and sending the hieroglyphic assaults forward. It's been so dangerous. Ducky with a 2-level lead over Scream. Will apply some gentle pressure to the right side Phoenix, but don't have enough damage or tankiness to siege that up while Scream is there. Wouldn't you guess it? About 30 or so seconds. If my math is correct, the Fire Giant buff will be gone. A win condition, though, opened up now for the Highland Ravens on a pretty quiet FG. Have gotten the left side Phoenix exposed. Really, both teams with a convincing enough fight at this point in the game have a look at the end. But you're always going to favor the Highland Ravens at this point with the gold lead that they've got. Benny's been able to stick around, though, and farm. Trelly actually build-wise almost the exact same, if not definitely the exact same as where Ven is. XP is going to start catching up here soon. It's Oathhh who really needs to get on his horse now. Start farming up, start to catch up in this game. He's level 16. He's equal with Hurriwind, behind everyone else in the game by 2, 3, 4 levels in BaRRaCCuDDa's case. This Susano's got the largest hill to climb and getting back into game 2.
Yeah, the issue here with Oathhh is that he cannot do what Ducky's doing, where Ducky says, hey, I'm going to go push to the Phoenix, and they're going to not be able to kill me, so they have to sort of just ignore me. I think Oathhh gets 1v1'd by 4 members of the Highland Ravens. That's everyone except for Hurriwind can 1v1 the Susano at the moment. He just doesn't have the damage. He's so far behind. He's going to need at least that Crusher finished up, or I guess he could go Titan's Bane if he thinks he's going for the tanks. Either way, he needs some more itemization. Because of that, he's just been sticking around. He has been kissed to Quig more often than not, but has not been able to find too much damage in the meantime. But this Fire Giant spawning in, about 23 minutes or so. And it looks like the Hounds, once again, are not on the side of the map with the Fire Giant. They're going left. They do not value this buff yet until it's enhanced. They're just going to ignore it.
And what is that given? It's given BennyQ time to remain farmed. Right now, on the map, it is a 1-level lead for Ven. Itemization is exactly the same from BennyQ over to Venenu, despite Ven being 6-0-2 and BennyQ being 0-4. Mid lane tier 1 drops. Looks like mid lane tier 2 may also drop, but the answer back from the Highland Ravens is just shove it right down the right side of the map. Hounds will get back. It's going to be really close. There's going to be plenty of damage from the Highland Ravens on that right side Phoenix. A teleport's going to roll in as well. So for now, another open Phoenix for open Phoenix, but the right side bird of the Eldritch Hounds base, a bit weaker than anything else on the map.
It is a bit weaker, but so far not the biggest issue. I actually like that call by the Ravens because they didn't even send BaRRa towards fire. They said, go get some towers. Hurriwind dashes in, misses the beats, not going to be able to grab anything just yet. But we haven't even got to see what the Eldritch Hounds look like in a 5v5. It has been a lot of split pushing. This might be the first chance we do get as Hurriwind sieges forward, grabs Quig, no follow-up. But everyone's here. This could be a 5v5 siege towards Phoenix. By the way, there's still a tier 2 available in mid. They don't care. The Highland Ravens want to try and make use out of this play. Haddix goes up.
Follow that Horus icon. He's just going to go right in front of the Phoenix. Dashes forward, connects with a stun onto Ducky, and a Hell Ultimate rolls through, but so does Colossal Fury. Oathhh is on his own, and he doesn't want to be there. He'll dash out of this fight as well. And look at Ven simply backpedaling away. There's just been no backline threat, and the Ravens can sustain, step themselves forward, but VaporishCoast at full HP might still have something to say in this fight. Actually, he's half HP. Whittling down some full HP bar. Scream, though, has found the carry. Takes the beads away and jumps right on out. And it's a right side Phoenix taken care of for the Highland Ravens.
They still have a minute 20, though. The Highland Ravens are not done. They want to grab that tier 2 in mid, at the very least, to try and keep this gold lead climbing. And I'm thinking they're going to be able to do so unless the Eldritch Hounds try and go for a defense. So far, Oathhh has only gained 1 level since we last talked to him. Finally, he ticks over to level 19. This Susano, as you said, not a backline threat just yet. Ducky goes, and the team just runs away. You don't have to fight into Colossal Fury. They're going for the Phoenix, though. They only have 50 seconds to make this play happen, and Hurriwind's getting weak.
You know, we talk a lot about Coast and on his run to Worlds last year and how it always felt like there was just a little bit of magic. Coast always had something to say in the games where nothing else was looking great. The playmaking potential of VaporishCoast. This Hounds team needs some of that here in game number 1. Because the rest of this game has not felt great. Now starter item upgrade for Ven. A difference maker against BennyQ. Oh, and a pump fake from the Highland Ravens. They fake going back. Maybe trying to catch someone from the Hounds, overextending in the jungle. The Hounds are nowhere to be found here over on right. Oh, Haddix. He's just considering the end. Only one back is being channeled, and the rest of the Highland Ravens are not going to take it.
Oh,
they
got
back
me.
Their way away.
They got me so bad.
BennyQ completes his back. And it looks like the Ravens will take a breather. Fire Giant drops, a minute till the respawn.
I'm wondering what the comms were there. Like, I don't see anyone,
go,
man.
No,
like,
go. No,
like,
no.
Like,
go,
are you sure? Are you sure? Yeah, let's go. Okay, no, never mind. And then BennyQ was the only one there. It would have been hard because you still have to deal with what I assume was going to be a 5-man crushing wave, right? When the Horus,
everyone, right?
Yeah, when the Horus lands. And no minions at that, but still. Could have been a Phoenix call, and they decided against it. Fire Giant buff falls off. This time, I want to see the Eldritch Hounds go for the defense. So far, they've just been sort of rolling over, saying, hey, we're relatively in this game. Oathhh is now level 20. He has an upgraded starter item. BennyQ is able to match the damage of Venenu at the moment, build-wise, and they just have not actually fought yet. They're saying, hey, we're going to let you get this Fire Giant. That one doesn't matter. Look at this, though. Scream spots it out. The Hounds are in a wraparound play now. Hurriwind's wrapping around the wrap.
The double wrap.
The double wrap.
I'll say it ain't so. Ducky is now right in front of the fight. My goodness, there's so much damage. Undying Love helps out. Naturally sends some right back towards Hurriwind. Got to be a kill on the Ducky. And Ven at 7-0 is unstoppable. This might be your final fight as Coast and the rest of the Hounds are just split up from one another. BennyQ's got to find a way to get it done. And both of the Assassins looking for the carry, and they won't get him. BaRRa stands tall. Flips around a double kill, and the Highland Ravens, who feel like they should have won game 1, will win game 2, and we'll get our first game 3 of the year.
I mean, shouts out to Hurriwind. Found the wrap, wrapped around it, made sure that play does not work, and then the Eldritch Hounds do not have a mobile composition. The second that play was found out, they tried to retreat. Haddix goes to the sky and says, you're not going anywhere. BennyQ blinks in, tries to make a miracle play, and Bloodforge starts proc, and BaRRaCCuDDa stays alive. And that's going to be a 15-1 shutdown. I don't even remember the 1 kill. Apparently Oathhh got one. When was that?
At some point in the game. Who was it on? BaRRaCCuDDa? I don't remember it. All I know is Ven is having a season so far.
That's my
Ven,
mid laner, baby.
Yeah, look, you picked him up and you made the right choice. Ven has been looking great. So have the rest of the Highland Ravens. Again, you know, it's a game one where you're thinking, all right, Ravens are going to run away with this. The one fight, the 3-kill turnaround into Phoenix was just such a momentum shift. And I don't want to take away the game one win from the Hounds. But it's felt like 2 games where in the first 20 minutes everything has been Ravens.
Yep.
Game 2 is another example of that. Game 1 just goes a bit sideways after a bad fight. Hounds have got to figure out some of their early game here, Trelly. Benny just could not get it done, was getting dove on constantly. The beadsless Hebo was getting punished.
Yep.
Smoothing over some of that early game, not having to bank on late game is got to be an early look at for the Hounds.
Yeah, I'm thinking a different pick or a different build style. I think the Hebo gets shut down by Thoth regardless of what you build. The Blink was sort of trying to remedy that.
Yep.
But Scream said, hey, that's a Hebo with Blink. I'm going to make sure to keep wrapping around and setting up. And you get a fed Thoth, it's hard to deal with.
Tough game for BennyQ and Oathhh. Amazing game for Venenu. Highland Ravens, Eldritch Hounds. We're going 3, the conclusion after this break.
Problems. I would never thought that you could be causing these problems. It smells so bright with eyes like these diamonds. Caution. I know I should have known. Right now you're not alone. I don't wanna get in trouble. See where you stand. I don't wanna see you crumble. To recall what we meant. All the words you never said. All the questions in my head. 'Cause you're trouble, yeah. Yeah, you're trouble. Yeah, you're trouble. 'Cause you're trouble. Yeah, you're trouble. Running. Everyone says that I should get going, start running. But how am I supposed to run when I'm falling? I don't wanna get in trouble. See where you stand. I don't wanna see you crumble. To recall what we meant. All the words you never said. All the questions in my head. 'Cause you're trouble, yeah. Yeah, you're trouble. Yeah, you're trouble. 'Cause you're trouble. Yeah, you're trouble. Yeah, you're trouble, trouble.
Well, the Highland Ravens once again established some early pressure in game number 2, but this time no fumble around the objectives of the Highland Ravens, who were able to come out on top to take game number 2, tie up the set, and now push us to our first 3-game set of the new season. Didn't have to wait too long for that one. And if you want to watch not just our perspective from the top down, but also how the players can see the game directly as they're playing it, make sure that you go over onto our Twitter, check out the pinned tweet up top, and see all of the players' POVs that are playing here in studio. So if you see one of the players' faces in the studio that you want to watch their POV, we've got that streaming overall on all of their personal channels, as well as VaporishCoast is also streaming, even from the comfort of his own home at the moment. So make sure you check out the POV streams, as well as make sure you stay tuned into our broadcast. We're getting ready to jump now into game number 3, Mifflin. Game 2, definitely a little bit scrappy early on, but really only benefiting one team here, the Highland Ravens. They found their target in BennyQ in the mid lane. They made sure to punish him time and time again, and it felt like there was just no answer for the Hounds against Venenu on this Thoth.
Yeah, Ven had the decent matchup into the Hebo, right? You use outrange him. The poke war is always going to favor you, but it was pressure, I think, from Scream in conjunction with Ven that facilitates that highly aggressive playstyle. I don't care how much of a good matchup it is. If you're dashing every wave, you're probably going to die if your jungler's not there, and Scream is always there to make sure that Ven was allowed to hit his shots and do everything that he needed to. So I love seeing that from the Highland Ravens, both of the two of them, joining up to make sure that Venny has maybe one of his worst days here in the SPL, at least worst individual games in a set, because this one just felt like he could not buy a bit of farm. I mean, if it wasn't a solo kill, it was a 2v1 or a 3v1 dive. These games are always difficult to break down because it's one-sided. I mean, if you've got eyes, you know where it went wrong, and it was every single kill going to the Highland Ravens and every single objective doing the exact same. The Hounds were able to, for a brief bit, it was around this point in the game that's on your screen right now, that 12 to 14 minute mark, they were able to maintain parity insofar as farm through objective play. I believe it was a gold fear that goes their way that keeps them within striking distance of the Ravens. But Ol Mo, our buddy Mo, Menzum, was always on the Ravens side, and even with the gold staying largely even, you'll notice that the kills, as these clips progress, always continue going in favor of the Highland Ravens. And if you can't find your footing in a team fight, you'll never find the opportunity to strike at a Titan, and that's the situation the Hounds found themselves in.
Only a single kill going to the Hounds in that early game for Oathhh, but besides that, it has been all Highland Ravens, a 7-0 Venenu on the Thoth in mid, and 20,000 player damage as well. As you mentioned, just so hard to get to the backline to deal with him, and when you can't get to the backline to deal with one of the longest range mages in the game, I feel like it's difficult to maybe try and win out on some of these team fights. So changes for the Hounds now, Mifflin, moving into game 3. Ravens have been controlling the early game in both of the games that we have seen so far. Just had an unfortunate slip-up during game number 1 that ended up costing them there. What change-ups for the Hounds now moving into game 3 would you like to maybe see?
There are a couple of avenues, right? You can always beat early game with early game. You could draft saying, all right, let's get a Fenrir. Let's get something that just absolutely swings in the early on out of mid, and maybe a hyper-aggressive duo lane, and then leave your soul lane on an island. That's a viable strategy. You can lean into the late game, say, well, we can't beat these guys early game. They're nasty at it. So you draft a Khepri or, a slow long-range pick out of mid that scales up into the lane, a Mercury or something along those lines, things that Oathhh liked to play in his SCC days. Or you can continue doing what you have been, which is losing the early game and losing the game as a byproduct. So I would like to see the Eldritch Hounds lean a little bit more so into lane pressure. That's how they used to win pretty consistently in their Challenger Circuit days. That's how they would win in the play-in tournament as well. It was all about that early aggression. Laning phase goes well for them. They transition that into a mid-game objective-centric play style, and from there, put themselves in the lead for the late game. I think dual lane would be a great place to start for the Eldritch Hounds. Get Quig on something he can get active on, put VaporishCoast on a pick that he is known to play aggressively, and then facilitate that, as opposed to what it seemed like the Hounds were trying to do, which is bail out BennyQ.
It's unfortunate for BennyQ that he was the #1 target for the Highland Ravens to focus out in that second game. We now jump into the picks and bans for game 3. between the Eldritch Hounds and the Highland Ravens. Hounds searching for their first set win of the season, of the phase. Highland Ravens trying to keep their streak alive from their first win just yesterday. First couple of bans on the table, no surprise, as Guan Yu and Hercules both taken away. Hercules a strong component for the Eldritch Hounds compositions really throughout the history, and as long as Ducky has been a player on any team, has definitely been a pick that he has favored so much. And this Guan Yu that's just been so potent in this healer meta. That one change, giving it that little bit of CDR for that heal, has really skyrocketed him up in favoritism.
Yeah, Guan Yu is just ridiculous. I mean, Genji's guard, warrior changes giving over CDR, and the changes to the right side of the map giving over a CDR buff means that he's able to sustain in lane, maybe more so than previously. I believe when you were scaling with power, Guan Yu used to heal upwards of like 250 at max rank, now down to 110. But because it's up so much more often, feels as if his healing output for the team may have gone up as well. And this time now, essentially just a Cloak of the Ascetic built into your kit with 1 second off of all non-ultimate cooldowns affected by his heal. So Guan Yu, I think, properly evaluated by the Hounds and the rest of the SPL. His pick rate, his ban rate, both incredibly high. Healers in general seem to be valued very highly as well. The Hounds, I thought, would likely leave one of those hunters available, but now the Highland Ravens in response, it's easy. With both Cern and Ishtar off the table, you don't want to give over the one other just top pick hunter, so Marty will join them.
Does it surprise you at all that Hounds in this first pick position have banned away both the Guan Yu and the Umoja, especially for Quig, a pick in this Umoja that he has gone to time and time again? Do you think it's strange to maybe see the Hounds ban that one away despite being in that first pick slot?
I think if you are willing to first pick the Umoja or the Guan, I think you can leave them available, but perhaps the Hounds have machinations elsewhere. The Horus seems to be pretty valuable in the SPL right now. A lot of these teams putting him at the top of that priority list. It's not the first time we've seen a first pick Horus, not even the first time this set. So if that's the case and that's what they were vying for, I think the Eldritch Hounds put themselves in a very good position. So it's just a question of which would you have preferred? Would you have rather had the Guan Yu, the Umoja, or the Horus? The Hounds answer us with the Horus, so no questions from me there. What is questionable is how many value picks are still available. Where do the Highland Ravens go? Is that Horus going to support? Is it going to be soul lane for Ducky? Now that his Hercules has been taken away, is that something that he wants to lean in towards? TBD. The only thing we know now, with all the flexibility that Horus affords your team, is that Horus is going to be playing for the Hounds this time.
We've seen plenty of flexibility with that pick, just across the different roles between support and between that soul lane as well. Highland Ravens will take the Vamana once more. Something that worked out well for Haddix in game number 1. Was banned away, I believe, in game number 2. And now we'll get to see it come back out once more. But with a Nox for the Highland Ravens as well. So this will be something that Hurriwind will be going back to once more for the Highland Ravens. Drafting up the top 2, some flexibility with the Vamana again in that soul lane, in that jungle role. We've seen a little bit of both of them there. Just with this top 2, feel like it maybe gives away anything from the Ravens, or is this just a standard top 2 pick for you, Myth?
Vamana's been prioritized. Nox seems to be pretty valuable as well, but Nox also operates as a deterrent tool for some of the junglers that Oathhh has liked to go towards. If you think that Fenrir was a major win condition for the Eldritch Hounds in game 1, Nox essentially de-incentivizes Fenrir on his own, on her own, excuse me. Brutalize just doesn't work so long as Nox is on the map. That silence just needs to clip you once, and you lose out on a whole lot of your kit. So I like what the Ravens have done. It's a strong pick. It's one that you think maybe Quig would be willing to take as well, in the Nox in particular. So you grab it for yourself. Takes away some of the options from the Eldritch Hounds so far as jungle is concerned. I like the Ravens top 2 a lot.
Thor and Ram for the Hounds. We've second time now this set. We'll be seeing Coast take this selection, and Oathhh going to a pick that he doesn't get too often. It's one that we typically see banned away from him, but I'm not entirely sure that this one is even necessarily going to Oathhh. We've been seeing a lot of Ducky on the Thor. If the qualifiers and the kickoff lane are any indication, maybe now some flexibility on this Thor. Would you rather see this one in Ducky's hands for how much he's been piling, or try and get some of that map pressure out there with Oathhh on this pick?
Ducky's Thor is real good, J-Mac. It's hard to say to take it away from him, but Thor out of the jungle is just so versatile, and he's able to get involved so much earlier. I think if I'm the Eldritch Hounds right now, and it's me also waffling here on the desk, I would hold off a little bit before you make a solidified decision on where this Thor is going to go, and they're afforded that opportunity from here. The decision-making power and the decision-making I suppose, scale tips dependent on the next couple of selections from the Ravens, namely that backline. Is it going to be a mid laner that Thor could really abuse? If no, maybe you do take it over the solo lane. If yes, solo can still get involved. Hunter, though, can't really get involved there. So if Thor thinks he's got a much better matchup into that duo lane, you will likely take it into the jungle. We'll see. As far as direct lane opponent, if we were to take Thor into the solo, how does that fare up against Vamana? I don't particularly love that matchup, personally. Feels like so often you're going to be using that Thor or the hammer to clear a wave, and if that's the case, if Vamana connects the slow onto you, can immediately go into that ultimate and start bullying you in lane. Merlin's okay as far as matchups are concerned for Thor. Doesn't necessarily necessitate a jungle selection, but if I'm Oathhh and I'm looking at that Merlin, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I wouldn't mind playing into that.
Maybe acting as a double ban here for the Ravens with this Merlin selection immediately after the banning phase, as well as taking away Hell and Agni. So unsure exactly maybe where that Horus and the Thor will line up for the Hounds. So the Ravens take away a safe pick by taking out the Bellona, or not the Bellona, the Hell, as Bellona is being hovered, is what I meant to say, and locked in. So I think this now maybe at least gives us the idea as to where this composition is going. Horus for Quig in the support role, Thor over to Oathhh, and then Bellona going over to Ducky. We haven't seen Bellona in some time, Mifflin. How do you kind of feel about Bellona's scaling? Early game will be fine as far as the laning phase is concerned. Pretty easy to clear out that lane, even with the matchup against Vamana. But how do you feel that she kind of scales throughout this game?
You know, I think Bellona might be just pretty good right now, and it's due in large part to Vital Amplifier. Just getting the heal off Scourge, you're going to stack that up pretty quickly. Maybe find some value in the late game team fight. She's so good at staying in the engagement regardless that you will likely find the value from that item's passive. Again, it's, I believe, 15% additional auto attack power when you have it full stacked, and that's every time you're affected by one of your own heals. So Bellona decent as far as that is concerned, but into this matchup, I'm not certain that there's any direct correlation to the composition of the Ravens and the Bellona lock-in. The only thing I'm seeing over there that's going to be perhaps at times feeling a bit pressured by the disarm in particular by Bellona is Serqet. Very telegraphed. You want to get the full value of that passive, stack up your poisons, burst it with that one auto attack. Bellona can prevent that from happening, but otherwise, I guess it's really only the standard Hunter that's going to struggle up against her. As far as the entire composition is concerned, though, for the Eldritch Hounds, I'm hesitant to say that they're going to be able to hang in the early game, right? In 3 games in a row, or 2 games in a row so far in this set, the Ravens have won out handily in the early game. The Ravens have once more got themselves a composition that could dominate the early game just based off of picks. Serqet and Nox are just incredibly strong at finding anybody even remotely out of position and sending them to the graveyard for it. And the Eldritch Hounds susceptible to that style of play. I'm not certain where the Hounds are going to put their pressure. Where do they play around? Do you want to stand on your Tiamat in mid? Seems to take her a little while to scale up. You can play around the aggressive tendencies of a Horus, but Ram not exactly the most aggressive hunter on the planet either. Bellona struggles to secure kills. It almost dictates to me that this Thor is going to need a standout performance just to keep their head above water for the first 15 or so minutes.
And maybe that then kind of begs the question for that pacing of them, because for the Eldritch Hounds, it's felt like they've had to deal with a lot of anti-dive these first couple of games. We're looking 20 minutes into game number 1, 24 minutes into game 2. We look up at the scoreboard, it's 10-1 because the Ravens are just W-king through the jungle and into the back line. At one point, we're looking between Tier 1, Tier 2. This composition that the Hounds has, does that have enough maybe anti-dive, at least in the early games, to try and hold out against the Ravens?
Hard to say, right? I mean, the W-key potential of the Ravens is largely Vamana and Serqet. Serqet by mobility, Vamana by I'm going to turn into a massive CC immune monolith in the team fight that's going to walk you down. There's not much the Eldritch Hounds are going to be able to do about that, barring bursting him in exchange, and that would require a Sunder or something along those lines, I think. I don't want to see the Eldritch Hounds fall behind. If you're an Eldritch Hounds fan, if they fall behind, I mean, we could be looking at a Game 2 repeat.
Eldritch Hounds have gone down twice so far in the early game. Need a big start here in game number 3 if they want to find the set win. Can they do so? Let's throw it to game number 3 with the casters.
And the desk not necessarily convinced that it's going to be an easy early game for the Eldritch Hounds. You need a lot to connect and a lot to go right for the Hounds in order to stand up against what the Ravens are bringing. Scream, really good look on the Serqet already in this set. Same with Haddix on the Vamana. Ven playing another different pick out of the mid lane. Same with BaRRaCCuDDa, over in duo. In your mind, Trelly, though, you're looking at this Ravens composition, all 5 together. What is the name of the game? What are they hoping to get done, get the win here in game 3?
Well, first off, I just want to say that Oathhh and Scream were both dancing, and they had no idea of knowing that the other one was dancing. So, junglers, dance at your speed buffs. Number 2, it seems to me like the Highland Ravens have tons of CC. You know, when you look at Serqet, when you look at Nox, you know, the beads burn is going to be the name of the game. You don't have too much to capitalize off it, though, right? I mean, if it's just Scream and Hurriwind pulling beads, what's it for? Ven doesn't really need beads down to do his damage. Haddix doesn't really need beads down to do his damage, and BaRRa is a hunter. So it doesn't seem like, unless you're only locking down Hurriwind, saying, hey, we're going to wait for your setup, and that's when we're going to fight. Any time besides that, pressure, maybe that's the call. Maybe it's just Hurriwind and Scream playing off each other. Not a bad look, just when I see this much bees burn, I prefer to have it off the back of, you know, a Thor dunk or a Fear No Evil, a Hades ultimate, something that can really capitalize on the beads being down, but it's really just Scream and Hurry. They're going to be stacking around each other a fair bit.
Coast has largely been kept in check so far this set. I mean, who am I kidding? I'll hold this thought. We're fighting at level 2 in mid, as we have all set long. Maybe a bit limited, though, in the opportunities this time around. Benny over on the Tiamat. Here for game 3. BaRRaCCuDDa, level 1! And Hurriwind on the disengage enough. Actually send some damage back towards Quig. Luckily for both BaRRa and Quig, neither of the 2 junglers were over on the left side of the map at level 2 because, well, they're here in mid fighting, as they have been. 1 extra level's been enough for Quig and Coast to start to mount some pressure. I do think, though, we're tied 1-1 in the set, Trelly. Coast has looked pretty convincing in lane, at least in the first handful of levels. He's been building up a lot of pressure against BaRRaCCuDDa. Good news for BaRRa, on a Chernobog at level 5, regardless of where the pressure is, you can fight with your team.
You certainly can. You can always use that ultimate to just join across the map, and that's something that I think pretty much everyone's got to worry about, is where is that Chernobog at? Can he join the fight and make this a 1v2, a 2v3, that sort of thing? Really does start to add up and make your team fight presence a bit annoying and stops ganks before they even happen, if you're paying attention to that. Ducky definitely getting the better end of this lane in the early. Haddix has been hovering around that, I don't know, 20%, 30% HP threshold for quite some time. Oathhh hasn't wanted to come over there, though. I mean, it's not easy to try and gank Vamana. Like, wall into double tap isn't going to guarantee the kill, so spends more time in mid. Haddix is able to go back and teleport, so Ducky can't really use that benefit of poking out his lane opposition for the time being, but maybe that translates into a blue buff invade. Since the change of buffs, being able to follow you, we have not seen many blue buff invades. It's either, hey, I know exactly where the enemy jungler is, he's going to be over at the left side of the map, so I can go for this invade, or we're just going to walk the buff the whole way back to our tower line and not have to worry about that regardless. Oathhh shows up, though, and it looks like wants to know where Scream is. If he doesn't see Scream, goes for the blue. The second he sees Scream, I imagine this invade stops.
Unless that only emboldens him further. No, you're right. It stops. He'll back away. Sends a wall towards Haddix. Just confirms the blue buff. You know, we've seen a kill or two happen really early, but it's been right. That 10 or so minute mark in the last couple games where things have really flared up. But if we're putting a lot of this early game at the feet of Oathhh, level 5 is going to be vitally important. Hurriwind and Quig both going horrific emblem. If we're just looking across the board, some of the early conversation pieces in this game. Both maybe sensing that there's some value in that early relic pickup.
The slow, the upgraded version, I think, is great in auto attack compositions with, I would call both of these teams pseudo auto attack composition as is. Scream has the wraparound here, is looking for Ducky.
Ducky's taunted. Ducky will have Eagle's rally. Chooses to go up, down. Scream will take damage, but enough from Haddix on the backside gives first blood to the Highland Ravens. And what stinks for Ducky is he just used teleport, so he's got to buy some wards and walk all the way back to lane.
I don't know what the... I don't think Ducky lives if he ults out. In fact, I know he probably doesn't, but it's just always the up-down for Bellona ultimates. I guess the wave is there, so you run the risk of losing some farm if you don't go for the up-down, but I imagine there is a world where he's able to juke his way out if Scream overcommits or something. But extra farm the way of the game, you said it, teleports, so he's going to be missing a fair bit of farm. Has to run all the way back and lose some to the tower, so just wanted to get that death over and done with and back into the farm game. Hurriwind is going to take a little bit of damage here, but this Nox relatively tanky in the early. And just doing a little bit of a little juking to make sure that he knows, hey, I know I'm not going to die here, and I don't have to use any relics, but Scream is unrelenting.
Whoa, and Oathhh takes a lot of damage. Down to half.
Hurry, hold
despite
at the
a
wall.
1-level lead. Sure did, and that's what he gets for back pausing over in mid lane. Trying to get in the head of the Eldritch Hounds. What I do love is on Hurry's player cam, while he was kind of pump faking his back there, it was just pure focus in the same way that you see right now. Never a smile broken on his face. He knew what he was doing and he was determined to make it work properly. And the Nox looked good previously. It's good disruption. More of that from Hurriwind, who's picked up Sovereignty first, sensing most of the damage, most of the early pressure, really the entirety of this game because it's a Horus. Will be physical. BaRRaCCuDDa on and off the wall, and now up into the ultimate.
Where's he going?
Could go towards mid, which is where he goes. BennyQ won't get the lockdown, so well played from BaRRa, and actually holds on to his beads, and with a Thor dunk and a gank and everything flying at him, actually could have been far, far worse. Purple buff defense, though, and remember, Oathhh does not have Anvil of Dawn here, but does have a hammer to get out and over the wall. Unless this somehow gets red, which it does not. So the Ravens, a nice little rotation to counter out Oathhh and what he was hoping to get done here in the last couple minutes.
Yeah, I would say ult for ult, not that worth it, especially when the ult is BaRRa's ult, where he's not going to use that unless it's defensively anyways, unless there's a crucial fight breaking out. So that ult missing and not being able to get the beads. A pretty big loss there for Oathhh. All the while, of course, Scream's on the right side of the map, making Ducky's life even worse, and confirming the blue buff over for Haddix. So far, that's been going the way of Scream in the jungle matchup. I do think that Thor can be a ticking time bomb. We've seen some Thor ults absolutely change the course of a game. So if you're going Transcendence, get those stacks online, build some extra damage. You know, play for the, I'd say, mid to late game. And that's going to be just fine. But remember, Scream's been looking for scraps in the jungle. And was able to pull the beads off of Scream a bit ago. Or off of Oathhh, rather. And there it is. And this is why that's important, because Ben is going to follow up. And Scream catches him out once again.
But see, this is the pace that the Ravens have set in back-to-back-to-back games. It's just game one, as we've mentioned a few times. The Hounds, fantastic identification of a team fight that they could win. That end up winning wins the game number one, forces us onto a game three here. But the Ravens have just been unrelenting. So much of it centered around Scream. And remember, Serqet got some changes recently. With all of the crit chance just in kit now. I believe it's as you level your ultimate, you get that percentage crit chance, and so you go into, is it Rage and Deathbringer? So level 20, you get your ult fully leveled, you just get 30% crit chance on everything.
With Rage and Deathbringer, you're critting on everything.
You're critting on everything. I wondered if we would see a bit more Serqet, and Scream seems to think that the god is in a good spot.
Seems to. Oathhh and Quig are looking for Scream, though, and they've got BaRRa at back camps. All the CC misses, so that's going to be the end of that scrap. At the very least, Oathh's beads are back up. They were down for about 30 seconds once he died once, and they're not giving up here, but here's the rotation over. You might be leaving Quig out to drive. Hurriwind connects, but he doesn't. Should have an easy escape here. The Eldritch Hounds are trying to get aggressive, but I think just missing some of their abilities and not able to pull beads. That means the Highland Ravens can walk up, and Hurriwind, he's never been one to shy away from getting aggressive, no matter what god he's on.
No, and this sovereignty has been worth a lot. Again, small moments, but look, so much of this damage. Now, a lot of it's from BennyQ. Sovereignty could have been the difference maker there because so much of it between Quig and Oathhh gets a bit more shrugged off, though BennyQ had some burst on the other side thanks to the BaRRaCCuDDa that he had picked up. Purple buff's going to get invaded by Oathhh, by Quig, by VaporishCoast. Scream is here, but not going to be much for the Highland Ravens to say about it. Slightly more aggressive positioning from BaRRaCCuDDa. Got to be careful. Quig's just going to turn it on you and look for the stun. BaRRaCCuDDa just out of range. Coast has some autos. BaRRaCCuDDa will be just fine. Right side has been a bit quiet throughout this set, though we have seen good rotations over from both junglers. And that one level lead for Haddix on this Vamana. Disruptive Berserker Shield has been a really popular option. Really opening up the door for space. So important. The Hounds got to hope that they've got lockdown and shred later in the game to deal with this Vamana.
It seems like they might. But because of the pressure that Ducky's had, actually ends up, he just looks so sad. He pulled
Lucky.
it. He tried pulling it. And if you're wondering, that is the way to counter this strat of pulling the buff down into your tower. If you're the enemy jungler, you got to get closer than the guy trying to pull the buff. In this case, Ducky's saying, hey, buff, follow me. Scream says, nope, I'm closer. I'm going to take it. And is able to just burst that buff down. So it is nice to be able to pull your buff into a tower, but you have to make sure you're as close as possible to that buff, or someone can just walk up and steal the aggro, which Scream did, which means Ducky's losing out on that golden XP, and now Benny might lose out on his beads.
Benny has beads, uses them, leaps away. Easy as you like from Scream, though Scream had to use his ultimate there in mid, so not entirely for free on the gank sent towards BennyQ. These 10-minute marks have been where the games have ignited a bit more, when the Highland Ravens feel more comfortable to group up, potentially around Pyro, and get things working in that regard. Gold Fury has tended to follow immediately after. Now remember, the Ravens in game 2 were happy to trade Pyro for an early Fury, which kept the Hounds in it. I'm sure with a lead like this, they're going to want to fight a bit more. Oathhh has already used the hammer. I'm not sure Scream knows, but he's going to find out here shortly. BaRRaCCuDDa ults in. Scream's got the chase down for Oathhh. VaporishCoast forced into the beads as well. Sidestep and hammer out from Oathhh necessary. Massive advantage, though, for the Highland Ravens. They've got everyone but Haddix over here on left.
Yeah, Oathhh is lucky that he survives that one. Scream didn't have the ultimate, but one tick of that kiss would have definitely CC'd him to death, because those crits are already coming out. Not very often, but they're enough that that death bane can be a delete button if you get lucky. And I think the pressure from the Highland Ravens has not stopped. Remember, BennyQ already lost the beads once. Comes back, here's some damage.
Gotta be a kill from the Highland Ravens. It's not, but the burn from Scream adds the last bit of damage. I thought the dunk hit from Oathhh may have just flipped things around. Instead, it's actually put this store in a terrible spot. And the Ravens rolling here in game number 3. Another one. This time it's Haddix grabbing one onto Oathhh. 2-kill swing in mid, and the Highland Ravens. Now really the world is their oyster, Trelly. Could be Pyromancer, could be a tower, could be Gold Fury, could be all the above.
And all the while, BaRRaCCuDDa has not left. He's just pushing tier 1, so they win that fight handedly without their ADC. And it seems like Bear's going to be able to take purple buff. He's got plenty of farm. He still has that ultimate if he wants to try and use it. Now it's actually down. So VaporishCoast
in hand.
Yeah, VaporishCoast has ultimate. BaRRa, he used it to see if he wanted to rotate, decided against it. Ton of gold in hand, as you said, though. He's got a power spike or 2 coming back over here to left lane, but still, objectives are available. You said the world is their oyster. At the very least, a Gold Fury or a Pyromancer could be in their future.
You got a tower.
Yeah, they get a tower.
So it's at least one of the above.
But I need more.
I need more.
With this lead that they have built up for themselves,
you're getting greedy, Trelly.
I don't think so. If the lead was like 1 to 2K, yeah, then I'd be like, all right, tower's fine.
Not 3.5 in both gold and experience.
Right. Now it's time to say, hey, step up or die to Gold Fury, right? Those are the kind of plays that need to be made. Haddix already teleported, so it doesn't seem like that's coming anytime soon. But at the very least, Pyromancer, you have that burn damage from Venenu. I think Scream has been an absolute menace on this map. Anyone who walks up is getting their beads down. You got pressure throughout. You just gotta choose where to use it.
Talk to our hunters about Fail Not. Now there's really only a couple hunters that maybe they end up feeling like it's viable on. Chernobog has been one of those hunters. It's not an item we see often prioritized. I'll go back to that because, again, this is what I just referenced, where in game 2 the Ravens took Pyro but gave a Gold Fury over to the Hounds. There's going to be a rotation in, but is it going to be in time? BaRRaCCuDDa ults through, marks Quig, I believe. BennyQ has deleted Hurriwind, though, and the Ravens get the Gold Fury. For now, Hurriwind's fine, and the fight's going to get worse. Quig burns, and Coast may follow on the other side, but Haddix, full HP, gets a slow onto Oathhh, who has to use the beads and teleport away. The stolen Gold Fury makes that so valuable of a fight for the Ravens.
I mean, I don't think that could have gone worse unless Hurry didn't die, right?
Right.
You get Pyro, you make the late rotation over, Haddix ends up stealing the Fury, and you still drop BennyQ and Quig, and throw a possible tier 1 tower in just to add insult to injury. The Highland Ravens, I said I wanted more aggression. That's about as aggressive as it comes.
Turns out you weren't being greedy, Charlie.
No,
You knew what you were worth. And in this day and age, it's good to know your value.
You have to know your worth, and the Highland Ravens realize they can do no wrong with this lead, and I respect that. Because they have that lead, unfortunately, it's not enough of a lead. I'll tell you what would be greedy.
Okay.
A Fire Giant called this early. I think that would be greedy.
Now you're like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
5 more minutes.
I would say 17 minutes, or you get a pick of 2 or more. After that, Fire Giant becomes not greedy. But this
Right,
still,
just an insta-pull FG.
Yep. That would be a little much.
Be a bit lofty.
Because I think Ducky still does have some tank stats he'll be annoying to have around. You're in that position where Ducky's always going to be over here and right. If you go for Fire Giant, he can still contest. So you want to push that lead a little bit more. Maybe one more spawn in of objectives. After the next gold, then I'm thinking Fire Giant could be the call. I mean, at this point, Scream is still stacking up Rage, and Deathbringer's on the way.
Right.
So he's going to have plenty of damage towards these squishier targets. And here comes Scream once again, looking at Ducky.
Ducky has beads, uses them. Again, value from Scream. Everywhere he's gone, and a Runic Bomb. We'll get rid of that tier 1 tower. It's not often I've seen the player knock back or knock aside from that item. Little glimpse of it there. Ducky tried to stick around and defend his tier 1, but Runic Bomb simply does too much. Yeah, you got almost minute and 40 seconds until the Pyro respawns. Unfortunately for the Hounds, there's not much they can do on the map. And this is a wide envelopment from Haddix and Scream. If a fight breaks out, there's suddenly going to be a Serqet in your backline. It's going to be spearheaded by a Vamana. Then, getting aggressive, keeping BennyQ right where he is, and it's just a bait and a switch and a kill. A killing spree for Haddix. Up goes Oathhh. This is desperation from the Highland Ravens. Ven is out of the fight, though, so it's a 4v4, but the 4 that are still in the fight are far behind the Highland Ravens. The Eldritch Hounds have gone back in. Haddix stomps away, and Oathhh takes all the damage. It's a killing spree for Scream as well. 2 killing sprees for the Ravens. Only the Fire Giant on the map, so you're not going to immediately convert that to any of the neutral objectives.
You're not. I said 2 or more. They got the 2 kills, but unfortunately,
not or more.
Yeah, the health bars were also a bit low, and it seems like Scream recognizes he's only level 15 and wants to continue getting some farm. Oathhh, level 12 on this Thor. Not a great look. It's just so difficult as a Thor to even do anything here. Scream loses beads, but there's just no way you can chase down a Serqet with a Bellona with that no ultimate and a Rama with no mana. So that's going to be the end of that chase. You have an opening, though. You could look to try and CC Scream. I'm trying to find ways for the Eldritch Hounds to get back in, because let's be honest, game number 1, it wasn't hopeless, but it was looking rough. This is in that same sort of spot where the Hounds are going to need a massive comeback mechanic to try and get back into this game.
2 shutdowns. Gotta find him, though, right?
You would.
And there are only 3 kill shutdowns.
You would need Haddix and Scream to die, and I'm thinking Coast or BennyQ needs to confirm those kills. I mean, Oathhh could as well, but you get 1 kill there, you're going from 12 to 14, you know? Coast would go from 16 to 17, BennyQ as well. Those sort of spikes are a little bit more worth it on the characters that are closer to, you know, matching the DPS output. Oathhh is never going to match what Scream is doing for quite some time.
You had eyes for this second wave of objectives. It's now arrived. This is where the Highland Ravens, they've already made their money, but they can invest it and make some interest. If you can get Primal, if you can get Pyro, which they did already, by the way. Pyromancer confirmed just now. Runic Bomb in the back pocket of Scream. Primal Fury looked at. Go back, spend your gold, then you can start dancing around Fire Giant if you are so comfortable. Big spike for Scream with the Deathbringer also added into the build. Haddix rounding behind BennyQ here, has ultimate. And a necessary wall, I think, from Oathhh, but Haddix is zoning out 3 members of the Eldritch Hounds. 3 members of the Order side stare at this Vamana, walk the other direction, and the Primal Fury, unless a steal happens, which it does not, will go to the Ravens. And Haddix not even down to half HP with 4 members of the Hounds zoned out.
I mean, this is why you pick Vamana, though. If you're going to get ahead in the rare instance where they can never kill you, they don't want to put damage into you either. Because, like, what are we going to do? Waste 3 ultimates and just get Colossal Fury and then back up? That's not worth. So, Haddix is able to zone 4, be annoying, get some good poke damage, clear wave, get farm, all the while his team is able to grab that objective. This is when that Vamana pick really does start to become annoying. I think that VaporishCoast, it has 2 crit items. He's got some decent damage, but you're 2 levels behind. Haddix has the Spectral Armor and the Berserker Shield, and is level 18 just on map. Very difficult to try and deal with this Vamana pick so far. But the Eldritch Hounds are not doing their usual play of just split pushing and giving up the Fire Giant. They're grouped up here. Haddix gets caught in the background. Let's see how much damage they have.
This is just exactly what you said. You're going to spend some ultimates. He's going to go Colossal Fury and is going to chase everyone down. He even gets the Aegis away from BennyQ. That's unbelievable from Haddix. That's a real great damage check for the Highland Ravens and their solo laner. The Hounds simply cannot fight if Haddix is anywhere nearby. And he's got ultimate. He just chased down and got Aegis off of BennyQ, 3 members of the Hounds. Now remember, teams who are behind have not felt super threatened by the early FGs. I imagine the Hounds this far behind are going to agree. Anvil of Dawn actually going for a steal. Is Oathhh, but a hammer away. Quig goes forward. Fire Giant is low, but it's stalled out by the Highland Ravens. Health bar's low on a double wall. But Hurriwind able to join his teammates in retreat. That was tense. And actually the Hounds step up for an attempted steal. Doesn't matter though, the Ravens at the 20-minute mark, 9K gold in the lead with Fire Giant on 5.
Yeah, I think that Fire Giant was an early enough pull where Hurriwind isn't tanky enough to hold the Fire Giant aggro for that long, to where the Eldritch Hounds could actually use their semi-global presence to try and steal and not die. Oathhh gets an actual land onto the FG, doesn't actually have enough damage to try and steal, and of course the Highland Ravens, they don't go for the 50-50, they stop DPS immediately. They say, hey, that's at a solid 1K, 2K maybe. VaporishCoast does not have the damage to steal with snipes. And of course, Oathhh is never doing enough to go for that steal. So they stall until all the damage comes through. Then they go for the burst. Then they go on for the retreat. Picture perfect play. I don't think it could have gone better. They grab their objective. And now they're able to push up. Remember, tier 2 and right already gone. Scream whittled that away. They do have time for Scream to push up left, grab a shield buff, and then go for the last tier 2s on the map. You got to try and go for the defense, but Haddix is going to be a menace here.
Double knockup from Haddix. BennyQ left running. Benny does not have Aegis because Haddix did just this a few moments ago. Both carries and support beneath their Phoenix line while a big Vamana runs them down. That's opened up the rest of the fight to the Highland Ravens. And Ducky unable to match the pressure of the opposing solo laner. That said, tier 2 is still around. Scream uninterested, and the boring moments over in mid will now look to rush down the left side tier 2.
They've got time. Haddix is going to teleport back in. Once the full health Vamana comes in, this man just hammered?
Whoa! Oathhh chunked beneath half. Up and over goes BaRRaCCuDDa. BennyQ's on his own, doesn't have beats, doesn't have Aegis. Does have a chance because he's got a double knockup. However, the rotation in from Scream might seal the deal on this fight. A double kill from Ven, and it's a rampage for the Merlin. 3 killing sprees active for the Highland Ravens. What was game 2? 15-1, something along those lines. We're on a very similar path here in game 3.
We are. That mid Phoenix is coming up next. Ducky and
decent
Oathhh
death timers.
trying to go for the defense, but it looks like this Phoenix should be going down for absolute free. But they don't want the Phoenix. They want blood.
Goodness. Scream. Unrelenting. Haddix is as well. There's one more tower left on the map, but Fire Giant, only 30 seconds left on the buff. Ravens may feel like they've done enough. And actually, Trelly may only need one more reset to close out this game.
Fire Giant falls off in 15. They're not going to go for that tier 2. That's a smart call, but the Oni Fury goes down for absolute free. I don't think that the Eldritch Hounds are in a position to split push the game away. I don't think that's the kind of spot they're in. In times of past, Ducky was able to actually farm and be unkillable. The Bellona dies. I don't like this build one bit. He is getting absolutely shredded and he does no damage. So it's just so difficult to exist as a Bellona when you go essentially. I mean, the Kins is gonna shred once he gets it, but since he has just Balance Blade, he's went a damage item that gives him no damage. It takes a while for it to get online. Whereas Haddix, he's got the damage. We've seen what he can do in the backline, and because of that, Ducky he goes in, he gets his beats, he ults out. That's sort of been the strategy here. That's all he can really do. But I don't think that Quig has been able to CC much at all. When your front line stops being tanky, it's so hard for your back line to do damage as well. But at the deficit the Eldritch Hounds are under, the damage isn't much, the tank stats isn't much. They just have to try and find as much free farm as they can.
Remember, the desk set this one up pretty well. The early game was going to be vitally important for the Eldritch Hounds, and they were not able to stand up in the early game. Highland Ravens ran them over. Look, Haddix may just be able to 2v1 this. Hell, he's been 3v1ing throughout most of this game. Watch the Hounds scurry. Now, you need to watch out for the Colossal Fury, because once that time's out, it could be a threatening moment. BaRRaCCuDDa jumped on. Then a pick from the Eldritch Hounds, going to turn into 2 potentially. Though Haddix able to scurry away. BaRRaCCuDDa dead, 45 seconds, and loses FG buff. But that is 4 ultimates from the Hounds, and now your solo laner on the return kill. In the meantime, Ven pushing up some waves over on right.
Yeah, see, Haddix is unkillable. BaRRaCCuDDa is not.
He is not unkillable, that's right.
The idea was Bear flies in, oh, they're all going to look at Haddix, and then I can do damage. And the Hound said, wait, we can kill that guy. Let's just ignore Haddix and go for Bear. Bear goes down. You lose both relics, a Chernobog ult, and your ADC for the siege. Sometimes you see Haddix stomping away and you want to try and help out. I understand. You're going to lose a bit of your siege here, but maybe the Highland Ravens don't care. Hurriwind sieges forward. Haddix is going to get walled. You remember, he doesn't have his ultimate, and he's getting shredded fast.
That's right. Haddix melting a bit. Some itemization starting to get there for the Eldritch Hounds. Doesn't look like any more defense from Haddix. Something in the Golden Blade tree.
He went Shadow Drinker last time, but I had the theory.
Wow, he went it again?
I had the theory that he needed the base defense, so he just built it, but that's really what he prefers. It gives decent stats, but I got to imagine Zerated or Hasten could build a little bit more. If he goes invisible as the big baby, I'm gonna.
I wonder if movement speed is a big draw on that passive as well. If you're able to get a kill, you can just kind of keep surging.
I really want to see it.
I do want to see a stealthed Vamana, though. Gotta be so easy to hit, though, right? Like,
you'll never know where he's at, though.
Yeah, I guess, right? Where could he be? He was right here a moment ago.
He was just stomping on us, and now
where did he go? He's gone. I'd love to see it.
And I hope it happens. It's Blink's up in 10. Haddix has the opportunity to show us something great, and now they're splitting up. Remember, that mid Phoenix is gone.
3-2,
so
full split.
Yeah, so someone's going to have to defend mid, someone's going to have to defend left, but Haddix and Scream are already surging forward.
Again, Haddix is 3v1'd, but now he's got assistance. Unfortunately for Oathhh, he'll get jumped on by Scream, who gets the kill. All the same, Ducky running back towards the fountain. Haddix stomping 4. This might be our chance to see a stealthy Colossal Fury, but it's only going to be damage taken, and none of it critical. Right, mid, both gone. Oathhh, forgettable game 3 here. 0-4 on the Thor, 1-4 from BennyQ. It's not been a great mid 2v2. 1-8 compared to 10-0 of the Highland Ravens mid 2v2. You are grasping at straws here if you're the Eldritch Hounds, and unfortunately, you've got a Vamana in your backline. Colossal or not, Haddix still hurts, but can be bruised. That's all 3 birds off the map in the Eldritch Hounds base.
Yep, 3 Phoenixes down. You'll lose Fire Giant literally that second. Good time to back up. Now you've got a chance to go back from maybe grab a Primal, grab a Pyromancer, and enhance Fire Giant.
Think about who's doing the post-game interview.
Yeah, you're like, Haddix, you got some good games, but Ben's been having a great season. You could probably take it, you know, ask some questions.
BaRRaCCuDDa's always a good interview, though.
Yep, those are all on the minds.
Scream has had a really good set so far.
I've been very impressed with the Serqet gameplay. He's not playing the traditional just, hey, I'm going to blink in, CC, get out. Scream's been using the stealth. He's been hiding at Oath's back camp saying, go ahead, bud. Like, use your hammer. I'm going to make sure to pull the beads. Come back again. He's critting for 1,200. He stole Ven's red buff. He's commanding force.
Remember, we talked about this Ravens team and how Scream, the type of player that wants games to run through him. This is a flexible team. You got great opportunity for carries elsewhere, but Scream is the type of player that wants to be at the helm, right? And Serqet, this style of Serqet, absolutely opens up that possibility. Pyromancer dropped. Now remember, this is where the Eldritch Hounds were able to find a pick and kind of turn the game around. It's an ultimate forward from Quig. All right, Haddix just going to end the game. At this point, you're going to have some fire minions. The Titan's going to get worked down. What a way. Unless the backs get channeled, there might actually be one from Ducky But no, it all gets stopped, and Haddix alone in the Titan room of the Eldritch Hounds will close out this set.
And BennyQ is able to triple the kills of the Eldritch Hounds there, going to 3 at the very least, but Haddix with a wave. And that just goes to show, because I'm pretty sure Haddix was confident that his team was going to win that fight anyways.
Anyway, right.
Yeah, he's like, hey, I'll go for the end, but you guys got it. 4v5, you'll be just fine. The Horus ult goes in. Unfortunately, doesn't find anything, but I will say that was, I think the game was in a position where the Eldritch Hounds had to make a play like that. They could not sit back 3 Phoenixes down and just hope to win a defense. They were in a, hey, Haddix is in left, let's force this fight and see what we can do. Doesn't work out, but, I mean, the Ravens played lights out 3 games. One big mistake at a pyro fight in game number 1. Besides that, some clean play here from the Ravens.
Again, starting to build up some data on this Ravens team. Maybe this is just what we're expecting from this Highland Ravens squad. You still got Ven, BaRRa, you add Haddix back into the equation. The addition of Hurriwind is seemingly working out really well. Scream is as well. And it's another win in Season 10 for the Highland Ravens. This one takes 3, but a win's a win. The Ravens will be happy with it. That's it for Trelly and I in the desk. We'll break this one down.
Well, third verse, same as the first, and at this point, Miff, I would just call that a chorus because it has just been repetition for the Highland Ravens. 3 games in a row where they were able to sweep out the early game, but only twice they were able to win out from those early game sweeps, both in game 2 and now here in game number 3. Haddix back on this Vamana once again, a real threat in that end game, is able to go through the back door. Just got to talk about, though, the shutdown onto Benny and Oathhh once again. Oathh's just not able to get active on this Thor. BennyQ, another prime target for this Ravens team.
I mean, my heart goes out to Oathhh because it's what I said in that picks and bans segment, which was, yeah, none of these lanes really look like they're going to win, right? Even with an intervention from Oathhh. So if Oathhh wanted to succeed, it was going to have to be Oathhh and Oathhh alone. Otherwise, I think the Highland Ravens deserve every bit of credit. Of course, they played the early game perfectly in all 3 games this set, controlling it. Only 1 fumble cost them greatly in game 1, as Trelly said, towards the tail end of that cast. But this is another game just like game 2, just like game 1, where the early game gets out of control. The Highland Ravens take every single fight, and even with the Hounds able to take an objective here or there, they were never quite able to find their footing. I think you're right to bring up Vamana in particular. Felt like there was 3 different times I looked up and I just see Haddix walking at 4 people on his own, forcing relics and then walking away completely healthy. Just the infinite amount of space he was able to create was just a bit too much for the Eldritch Hounds to line up against, as well as Scream, I think. Puts together a very strong game on this Serqet. Been a while since we've seen like a true crit Serqet build. Maybe it's back. That damage output was wild.
I mean, the recent buff that she got gave her a little bit of passive crit with her ultimate. Combine that with just a little bit of extra crit. I mean, you're sitting, what, probably 80-90% crit at this point for Scream. Just
somewhere around there.
Every single auto, every dash almost is going to be slamming through there. Seemed pretty easy for Scream. 6-0-5 for him. 5-0-1 for Venenu. And then shouts back to Haddix again. 3-0-8 on the Vamana. Second time he got to play it this set. Second time he's looked real good on it. And it has gone towards that Shadow Drinker. Something in game 1 that was maybe in question of, did he pick it up because he had the gold for it at the time? Or was it something that he actually wanted to go for? It seems that this game solidified the Shadow Drinker was definitely a pickup for him.
Yeah, I wonder. I'm still of the mind that, you know, there are items that are better than Shadow Drinker insofar as the stats, and that passive, although super fun, I'm not sure how often that stuff's actually finding the value. So if Haddix were to come up and say, hey, I got Shadow Drinker because we were owning and we weren't going to not own, I'd believe him. If he says he likes it, I'll take his word for it as well.
Yeah, that's very fair. Maybe we'll get to hear something on that as it goes a little bit later down the road as far as that goes. But when we get to talk to Haddix instead, we're going to talk to Venenu, the mid laner of the Highland Ravens, standing by for the post-game interview.
Yeah, Ven, you and the boys are having quite a year so far. 2 whole games in. You guys are going absolutely nuts. This one goes 3. Let's rewind to the sad portion of this set, if we will. What goes wrong in game 1?
Game 1, we took a fight. You know, I don't want to say who it was, but he knows who it was. All right, we're going to take the fight because we obviously had a pretty big lead the game 1. And then we kind of took a fight without our ults, and then we stacked for everything. I think we got hit by every single Merlin button, both Ice and Void. Then we got Thor dunked, and then the Hercules got engaged, and I got bouldered 3 different times in that fight. And then the game was over from there because I am now Hera and I cannot kill their tank.
Right. Supremely unlucky.
Yeah.
Look, it looks like you guys, especially in your set yesterday, now 3 straight games really today where you've gotten the early game figured out.
Yeah.
Do you think that's just the identity of this squad, or the opponents you've played against, early game has been the emphasis?
Yeah, so funny enough, our scrims, we actually lose every early game and we lose all of our mid games and we sit under our Titan usually. So this is a different change of pace for us. So that's kind of nice.
More exciting to have on broadcast. This is the fun stuff.
Yeah,
to
this
have
is the
going on.
good stuff.
Look, you've been playing lights out specifically for this team. What do you think's been going so well for you and your play style?
Honestly, I just think I think I've played 5 different gods in 5 different games right now, and
that's right.
The meta is really fun. It's flexible. I get to play kind of like my style. I also think that Scream kind of understands like how I play and how I think of the game, which kind of helps me explain like different style of picks and stuff. So it's been really nice being able to be flexible and pick my style of stuff that people won't really like know or expect at the time. So yeah, it's been really enjoyable so far, and I've been liking it.
5 games, 3. I mean, all 5 have again looked good for you guys. Little fumble in game 1 of this set, but other than that, it's been really good. One thing you want to work on after the 2 sets you've played so far this weekend?
I think we.
If anything, it's a hard question.
I mean, we're making mistakes around like. To be honest, it's still our early game, I think, as we were making mistakes around there. I think game 2, they got a lot of objectives that they shouldn't get when we're in an advantage state. And then just playing around their spikes a little bit better and kind of like learning where people are strong and being vocal. But I mean, right now, honestly, like Neil's helping us a lot right now.
Big brain,
so
that's right.
Honestly, I've been loving it. He's been great for us. And yeah, definitely enjoying it. So.
It's a good start. You got the building blocks, and should be a fun year for you guys. 2-0 to start off season 10. Thanks for your time, Ven. The desk will take this one home.
Maybe to further emphasize the point on how well Ven is doing in that mid role, and I guess props to Trellick because he picked up Ven as his mid laner. He is feasting on fantasy points right now.
Must be nice.
Only 4 deaths in those 5 games that he has played so far. His lowest kill count game has been 2 and has been averaging about 6 for just about all of them. 8 kills, 2, 2, 7, and 5. Now to round this one out for Venenu in his first 5 games of Season 10 of the SMITE Pro League here in this first phase, in the phase Road to Masters. Venenu and the Highland Ravens all really coming together in this set, all looking pretty crisp. I mean, you heard it from Ven. Aside from that one team fight in game number 1, it's looked really clean for the Highland Ravens. We still got 1 more set to go, so stick around. We'll be back with our final set of the day.